Dusty,
I'm here.
you are here. So good to see you.
Partially queer, but no.
Partially queer, as an odd.
But I mean, whichever way you want to take it. Committed relationship, but you know, past relationships have said otherwise.
It is a bit interesting how like a word like queer has been taken like it's not quite derogatory, but it's a trigger word for certain people. They'll get upset that you say queer around them.
Absolutely, because it's become so, I want to say sexualized, because it kind of has. Because it goes,
I can see that, yeah.
It goes with the LBG whole alphabet community. I mean, it was used as a derogatory term, like you said, to identify them because of who they are.
Right. But in essence, like the word itself, I'm pretty sure its original meaning is just odd and unorthodox or unusual.
Yeah.
So it's a curse word. I feel, if you consider a curse word, that somebody's kind of trying to make it into a curse word.
They've tried very, very, very hard to make it into a specific type of hurtful word.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They've done that with quite a few words over the years, I do believe. That
one in particular, though, like I've got family members that are not heteronormative, you know what I mean? And like that, it was just always like, I don't know, it was just a word to describe something like not normal, you know what I mean? Or like out of the blue, something that you're unaccustomed to. And maybe I guess they turn that into sort of like a microaggression where it's like, well, what is normal? You're saying that this isn't normal? It's like, well, it's not normal for the person that's saying it. They're saying it's odd.
Right.
It's queer.
Right. It's just not the usual.
Right.
It's, I do love words that are like that, though, because you can teach a lot of people that don't know the proper meaning behind it. They've always heard the negative meaning or that derogatory term.
Right.
And they just have that connotation associated with it. So you could teach some people, and some people won't take it in, but some of them will. There's a greater portion that I find that will, thankfully.
Well, there's even some, I don't know if you would call them advocates or whatnot, but you know, within the I guess woke community that I kind of agree with it, because they've taken the Q from LGBTQ and turned it into questioning. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what their rationale is as far as like if they're like, well, queer is a dirty word, or if they're like, queer is not a dirty word and we shouldn't associate normalcy with something in the LGBT community because it's natural, so why wouldn't it be normal?
You know what I mean? It could be a little bit of both. Thinking about it, because I mean, there's always different levels of passion behind why people do things, of course, and some people are doing it for their own benefit, or some people are doing it for a benefit of the community, and turning that, like using that as an example to take the negativity away from something, you're taking the power away from that as well. So that's years, and it's not reversing it, but it's taking years and years of a negative energy. It's just, how shall I put it? It's helped turning it into a new leaf. I don't know exactly how I'm trying to put it.
I'm picking up what you're putting.
But you know, it's helping tone down the emotional pain and the trauma within
at least the emotional
term.
Logic that comes, because it's not a good way to coordinate yourself in the world is to try to make your logic emotional.
It's very closed-minded.
I would agree. The interesting thing, like nowadays in the scope, it's like closed-minded has become kind of like an orthodoxy where it's like, well, what are you closed-minded to? Because if you're closed-minded but you agree with us on these things, then you're actually a compassionate person. Right.
Like if you we'll just be nitpicky about it, because you can be closed-minded about the rest of this bullshit. Mm-hmm. But let this one thing, oh no, we have to agree on it, otherwise you're the devil.
Yeah. Like the like the GameStop shit that was going on like this week.
Yes, it's
So like I don't know if you saw, they had folks from like hedge funds, and then the media parrots just started repeating them. But that what shows is that this is probably an alt-right group that did this. This may be foreign interference. This was probably white supremacists or Proud Boys, Trumpites.
They're not giving you the full details behind that particular group that did it. Just that they're attacking the hedge funds.
Yeah,
just
so
they're going against the man.
Yeah, so they've kind of stupidly, in my opinion, if I were an evil villain, but like they took like all of these attacks that they've used to demonize whoever, like in the past 4 or 5 years, and they've sort of said, well, all the people that just made money and that support this cause, they're all Nazis.
Right. They just point like a general point the finger rather than an actual whodunit.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
I personally had not seen as many intellectual and political nerds, right, that were all sort of agreeing in my social circle. It's been the first time that I've seen similar people like similar things in 5 years.
It's almost been like a peaceful time. Like a gosh, what's that term?
Like a ceasefire?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Hey, you know where I was going.
I got you.
You're there. But it's almost like a ceasefire. And if you think about it, if you put it together like I have recently, it kind of makes a little bit of sense with the recent political heat that we've been having. Right. Which also, and I'm going to keep politics out of this.
We're using it as a reference point, not as a
right.
discussion.
But I mean, it's kind of a conspiracy that this big attack the hedge fund type thing, and Robin Hood is bad, and all of these stock communities are bad, yada yada. Right after our fucking political inauguration and everything else, our new president, everything got switched around, and then this just happened. I mean, I'm glad for it, but it's just a little shaky.
I'm excited because I am close as I can get to I believe in populism. Of the people, by the people, for the people. Just stay the fuck off my lawn. You know what I mean?
Work as a community, but keep your privacy.
Yeah. I believe in property. I believe private property begins with oneself, your own bodily autonomy. So I don't agree with the Marxists on that. Aside from, I think that that whole ideology is just sort of toxic because it's susceptible to authoritarianism, right?
It can be, and that's where when
it plays out, it always is though. So philosophically, I get that it can be, but anytime it's played out on a national level, it's always susceptible to authoritarianism. That's the biggest problem with it. Because
what we have is never enough.
No.
Never enough. You can't just be happy and content regardless of what you say. Because, well, what are you doing if you're content? You're just settling at one point because everything is always advancing. So you have to strive for better. But where do you stop? What is the end of better? What is good enough?
Yeah, because, me personally, there's been a couple of times I've been without a job before. Mm-hmm. And the longest stretch I think I had was close to a month. And I'm telling you, after 30 days of nothing to do, I feel so stagnant and such a piece of shit, a human being.
You feel like an actual bag of trash. Your skin has turned into fucking plastic, stretchy, latex type material, and your hair may as well be the drawstrings, and your feet is just the nasty juice at the bottom where you're just wobbling along.
Yeah, and inside just filth that you won't get rid of.
Yeah, your own stench. Yeah. Your own stench. You're gonna smell it in the back of your brain. You're always gonna be I remember that time.
I wonder if I don't know. I guess there's some sort of narcissist. I'm no psychologist or anything, but folks that do become that trash bag incarnate type of life.
It's beautiful life.
I wonder if like folks that don't get out of it are the ones that are just like, well, somebody needs to come and take this out.
Look,
This isn't right. Look how much trash I've got.
I mean, but and you've been around. We've both been around enough different circles of people and different types of people that there are people that are fine being absolute garbage, and I mean that not in the. I mean, there are shitty ass people, but in the sense that they are content with literally dwelling in their own filth, mentally, physically, and just not doing anything but trying to wallow, and then ask, well, I mean, somebody else can just take care of it.
Yeah, either that or the they want you and the world to sink to their level, because then you'll understand.
Right.
That we have to do something, but I can't do it. I can't do it alone. And look how unfair it is.
And I can't do anything until you feel exactly how I feel, or worse.
Right, yeah, that's...
Because I've been feeling this way long enough, you've got to feel worse before, so you can understand.
Well, you and I have both known, and different people's, not in particular...
Excuse me.
That's how you get all the bitches.
Well, actually... I mean, I do have 2 dogs at home. So
I don't have any.
They fart on me all the time, so I feel it's only equal. Literally, it's on. And you know what? And sometimes, just because of it, because this is spiteful, and I'm that type of person. My dog, because one of my dogs, Calypso, she has the audacity to fart and then be like, "Huh? Did something happen?" And I'm like, "Okay, like you just didn't hear that come out of your asshole? Like, what? Okay." So
it's like me in class in 4th grade or something, like accidentally farting. I'd just be like, "Ew!
Who did that?
Gross!"
Yeah. So I've burped in their face, dude. My dogs just lick at it, like, delicious.
Yeah, you've given them now positive reinforcement from something you don't like.
That's what I've done.
See?
Thanks, Bonkers.
See? That just blew Bonkers' mind.
Right.
He
it's like, that's how I get to fart out loud now. Oh my God. Kitty mind.
But yeah, back to what we were talking about. But yeah, you and I have both known different people that are sociopaths.
Yes.
And
varying degrees of sociopathism, mysticism. You know, I'm sure there's. I think it's sociopathism, but let's just add a few other istics.
I've gotten a home before with a sociopath. I was just like, this is a good idea.
Right? Like, yes.
This is wise. And in hindsight,
manipulation though. Like hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
Also, manipulation is a motherfucker.
Mm-hmm. It's very true. I've learned a lot from dating and living with red flags, you know, and
stitched up red flags too.
Oh yeah. Sometimes it's just like, what does it mean? Like it's coming in all like Frankenstein, like after he's like been blown
around the
edge. It's like the sequel. Like Mary Shelley was like, but then they reconstructed him.
But wait, there's more. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Meanwhile, but yeah, you learn a lot from subjecting yourself to those kind of people, and then getting out and being like, God, that was really fucking stupid. Thank you, Bonkers.
They just want to be. The kitty just wants to be involved.
He does. I
didn't want to gender associate Bonkers, but I got you, dude.
He some people think it's a girl because, you know, he has tits, but you know, I mean, then again, so do I. So I'm kind of like, really?
There's more to love. There's just more to love.
It's the best of both worlds.
Literally.
That's why I've told all my girlfriends. I'm like, it's the best of both worlds. There's muscles underneath here.
Right. That's like like a bodybuilder girlfriend.
I don't know, because that's not my personal cup of tea. Like,
hey, it's somebody's. I mean, multiple people, and depending on the the level of bodybuilder, women look hot.
I slept with one like not to toot my own horn or anything, but like with one like serious like female like into like working out and whatnot. It was quite fun, but like man, muscles
but scary also.
Not like scary like oh my god, but like scary like wow, I didn't understand this would be this much fun. Like
she could break me, but I might like it. At least I'll die happy.
She told me in hindsight, it was like, this was like years and years ago, but I was talking with her like not too long ago. She's like, I had never been with like a chubby fluffy dude before, and like it was quite the experience, I must say. I'm like, huh? How about that?
So I opened some doors. You're saying.
But it back to what we were talking about. It as far as like how you learn from it and whatnot. You kind of learn like your own value a lot more, and like what you want and what you definitely don't want.
You learn a lot about yourself and a lot about who you are as a person, and you learn a lot about the world as far as how deceptive it is. Like how true, and not how deceptive the world is, how truly deceptive the human is. And because most, like, especially if you're in a relationship with that type of person, because I've had mine as well, like it's like they're completely two different sides, and you're the only person, or there's a very few that are in your group that get to see both sides, that Jekyll and that Hyde. And it's just, it gives you that whiplash effect, because you're like, am I going crazy? Am I the one that's wrong here? Like, what did I do wrong? And then it doesn't matter how much you break yourself down, how much you do, how much you change yourself. It's always going to be the same. Always. Always, always.
Yeah.
So it's like
dating an Academy Award winner, like, from my experience.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah, you're like, oh, okay, this is how movies get happening. Okay, I see.
But like, just like
I might die tonight.
Like you said, like there's like very few people, if any, in a friend circle that will see like the dichotomy of what you have to deal with.
And a lot of them side with the abuser, because that's what it is.
Oh, of course, of course.
There are very few sociopaths that are not also narcissistic, egotistical bastards.
Yeah.
You know. Ugh. Sorry, I'm getting the shivers thinking about it. Oh, the past brings back.
So what do you think one of the biggest misconceptions, or how can I put it, bogus stereotypes there is about Southern women?
That they know how to cook. That's gonna bring me like, well, I'm not from this. I mean, I am from the South. I've lived a lot of time here, but whatever. Like, that's a stereotype, and that they're nice. Oh, no. At least I'm a bitch up front. Like, I'm always a bitch. You just learn later that, oh, okay, there's just a reason behind it. But like, at least I'm a bitch up front. You either like me or you don't like me to begin with. And that's it. No. Just like the food. It's deceptive. That mac and cheese looks good. Dare you to take 2 bites. Yeah, that ham looks juicy. Dare you to try to cut into it.
It's true though, like it's one of those things, kind of like what we were talking about earlier before we got started. Like, it's like a skill I didn't know that like I had in me, where I was just like
a side note, like, sorry to interject, but everybody has that fucking skill.
Exactly.
You just have to be open minded.
Right. So the that whole notion of like well, you think a woman like needs to know how to clean and cook? It's like, yeah, so should a man. What the fuck are you talking about?
Everyone should know how to cook and clean and sew. Everybody should know how to plant.
I don't know how to sew.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll just rip them off and say that you.
I apologize for my testicles being out this whole time, but I appreciate you being a good friend and not bringing attention to it and allowing me to have the power to do it.
The hair covers it up.
It's pretty ghastly. The things they don't teach a lot of women is that when the beard grows up top,
so does the nest.
Oh yeah. I straighten my pubes, so it all just falls down.
Hey, after a while, you can just like fold it up, and then you can create this and use hairspray, of course, and just create a little bowl for your nuts. You've got a bowl packet, a package bowl for your.
My girl says she wanted me to pack a bowl. This is what I brought her.
Hey. And then you put it in a box, and you've got a dick in a box and a bowl.
I was thinking about earlier on the way back here because like I was just like excited to just hang out with you and whatnot. But
right, we don't hang out very often. It's not forever.
Well, we both kind of
have adult lives.
Yeah, and then drifted elsewhere and did different things for a little while, and
I mean, and that's the best part of life is that life happens. You get to travel, you get to move and experience different things and stuff. The worst part, shittier part, is you find people that you really connect with and you really bond with that you don't always get to be around, and like they're your closest group, but it's just strewn out, which is a good thing and a bad thing.
It is. It made sense when I was younger. I was like, why don't my parents have friends like I have friends?
Right.
I was like, they must not have many friends or something,
Oh, they're not good people. Oh, I see why people don't like them. Ew. I do love you. I love you, mommy, daddy. Mom, peace to you. Yeah. But
yeah, it it does make sense. But no, I was thinking earlier. I was like, Dusty and I have essentially aside from your dreads, we've swapped haircuts.
We really have. And I miss my dreads. Oh my god, I miss them. But
they were luxurious. You look great with them.
Thank you.
You look like a Viking queen with them.
I miss them so much.
I hope you appreciate how I say queen to make it
it's
as progressive as possible.
Right, the Viking women were kings in their own right. Like, they handled everything. They're the fucking tits. And tits are the fucking tits. Tits are awesome.
They are.
But I miss my dreads so much. But since I'm trying to tattoo my whole head and it's not done yet because I'm not rich, if anybody wants to give me money, I'll take free money, right? I don't want to work for it because I already have a job. We can do this. We can set up like a what's it called? Like a GoFundMe or something. Right.
We'll have that be like what we plug for you for like the episode. Be like, my dear friend Dusty wants to get her entire skull tattooed.
Right.
We have to help her.
Oh god, I would feel so bad though, because even though it would probably bring zero funds into that, I would feel so bad because there's so much more shit that actually needs money. And every time I see stuff, they're like, I started a GoFundMe. I need this and this and this. I'm like, oh, okay. What do you really need it for? Because if it's on my Facebook and I see it, 3 out of 10 chances I know them in person and I know what type of person they are.
I like how you defiantly crossed your arms.
Yeah.
You're like, right, what do you need it for?
First of all, let's count how many times I do this because I go on a tangent. I'm like, no. But I see that, and some of them are very, worthy of asking for, and it's understandable. Mm-hmm. But there are those, and you see them, whether it's people or whatever, schemes or whatnot, and it's just like, dude, but how many people you see standing on the road, whether or not they're standing there because they know that that's a good way to make money, or they literally have nowhere to be. You can tell the difference. Or like when I ride my bike in town, I pass this bridge, and the last time I passed it, I could still see the smoke from a fire that a guy that I saw 2 days ago going down there because he's living down there.
Right.
Like, he needs the money. Rather, he doesn't need the money. He needs the opportunities so that he can make his own money so that he can be a substantial person, not for the community and everybody else, which he does, but more so for himself. Yeah. Because that level of confidence you can't get from being given. Like, you have to earn it. And that level of humanity is not the same today. Ugh. I hate seeing people like that. I get so crazy in my own mind because I go off on tangents by myself thinking about it. And I'm like, you're fucking crazy talking to yourself, psycho. But I feel that way, and I've felt so strongly that way even since when I was a child. Ever since I was a child. English.
But when it comes to that, like the GoFundMes or the charities or whatnot, there's certain things where I'm just like, well, that's something you want. Earn it.
Exactly.
But there's been other times, like, like I've lost a home to fire, from a human being making a homemade bomb, and,
right.
And so, like, if I see like somebody like on Facebook that has like gone through that as well, then I'm gonna be like, yo, what do you need?
Absolutely.
Why? Because people helped me out that I didn't even know.
And that's how humanity thrives in a positive way. And that's like the situation and that experience alone is so traumatizing.
A little bit.
Like, not a little bit.
No, I'm being sarcastic.
Like people, and God forbid someone or something dies, like a pet dies. Oh my God, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
Or, a family member, or literally all of your memories that you've had for your childhood, and that's all you've got. Like, that's the situation for some people. And it's ridiculous to think that people are in those situations, and there are still others that are like, I could just get a new car, and it doesn't matter that I've crashed 3 and have 4 more. Oh, I could get this new hairdo and then pop 10 Percocets. I feel like I'm gonna drive my car into the lake today. May as well go ahead and call the doctor. Yeah, I'm exaggerating, but to some degree, there's a lot of truth there.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, I may not be telling the whole truth, but I'm not calling myself a liar. People are ridiculous. I am so for population control.
I am not.
In the oddest of ways. Like,
so who should we murder first?
Let me keep. Well, honestly, I can't remember what book, but we're made to read it in school, where they talk about, where they have to pluck straws or whatever for the lottery.
The lottery, yeah, the short story, The Lottery.
Yeah, okay, exactly. Where the term even came from, and that idea isn't that bad. But also, I feel like if people were made to do certain mundane tasks and tedious tasks, and go through certain challenges, and made to do certain jobs at stages in their life, we'd have a lot of people, because common sense isn't so common. Like, make everybody do 2 years military service. They don't have to necessarily go and fight wars, but there are a lot of things that the military can do to aid people around.
I agree with you somewhat.
Not that they are doing. And I mean, like...
the thing that worries me about that, though, would be that you're then indoctrinating adults. Because because it's... And, obviously no disrespect to anybody that's enlisted.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
There's a common theme, and it's within our own programming as people, because I know from Catholic school and Santa Claus that it's... You can dupe people into a narrative, and it's a lot more common to see folks like groupthink in these type of collectives, such as the military.
And because it's drilled in so heavily, and because for a long time, and a lot has changed, it's gotten a lot better with it, but for a long time, especially in military, violence is a way to make people listen. And that's been true for centuries. It will always be true. You can make things happen with fear, power, and violence.
I was listening to this, it's a pretty interesting discussion. This guy, he runs a podcast called Hardcore History. He was talking with another podcaster named Lex Friedman. They were discussing the difference between violence and force, and saying that, one would be sort of, you'd have to have a necessity for one, so you couldn't really label it as true good or true evil.
Right.
But another one, another one you would have to historically look at things and be like, okay, well, why is this evil? Right? So if you, like, for example, you just sort of look at, I don't know, the Eastern Hemisphere and the northern part of it during the 20th century, from Europe all the way to China, and you see a lot of genocide happen under fascism, Marxism, Maoism, communism, and we in the West, we sort of have this selective view of sort of like, well, this one's bad. It's like, okay, well, why is it bad? Like, personally, I think all of them are bad.
Exactly. Why aren't they all equally bad? Why should we, why are we choosing this one to hone in on?
Right.
Is it because there's too much otherwise? Do you have to focus on one at a time? What's your reasoning behind it? And a lot of the times, it falls back on greed or power, or somebody's threatening something.
So, to paraphrase, and they kind of take the angle of force, showing that it's more of the evil and good dichotomy, whereas violence, like you have to use violence to be able to protect your home, to protect your loved ones.
Just not, right.
Are you going to be diplomatic if somebody commes in and starts raping your grandmother or something?
Right,
you know what I mean?
You're just going to stand back and be like, oh, well, I hope he doesn't do it
Sir,
again.
You stop that now!
Let me grab my pen. I'm writing you a strongly worded letter. Dear sir.
Wait, what is your name?
What's your address?
Stop immediately and answer me. No.
Tap, tap, tap. Sir, excuse me. Would you like a cup of tea? And would you please dismount my grandmother?
But yeah, so force, when you can't force your worldview on somebody else, that.
But people try.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's how genocide tends to happen, because then it's okay, if you don't comply, then we're just going to get rid of you if you don't comply. So now, do you comply? And I mean, shit, that's a hard bargain. You know what I mean?
Right, I absolutely agree. Because I mean, what are you gonna die, or you're gonna go along with it?
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, there's two options. Whether it's not they leave you alone and they just take everything else, or whether or not they threaten you and actually ensue forced violence on it. There's death. That's what happens. I mean, we did it to the Native Americans.
Yeah. Well, it's a part of all of human history.
Yeah. Oh. And it's crazy that we talk about the cycles that repeat itself, because we know. We talk about it all the time as if it's, da-da-da-da. Oh, your wall's yellow. Oh, yeah, cycle of history, circle of life. Ha, ha, ha. As if there's nothing we can do about it. We as people, and myself sometimes, because, I'm not perfect. I'm fucked in the head. Okay? But I do strive
Birds
to...
of a feather. Tweet.
Cock-a-diddle. But I do try and work on certain things, especially if it's brought to my attention. But that cycle, we as humans can break. We choose not to. As a collective, because of groupthink and because others, and there are a few that, are outliers, but what can you do as one person is the majority of that group of people that are I hate this, I'm going to act against it.
Yeah. I think the only way you can is just talk with one person at a time, if one of the things I absolutely love about America and American culture is the idea of individualism. And I think
absolutely,
that's how we've thrived as a society. I'm not too big on the imperialistic empire of the USA, but that's not our culture. You know what I mean? Those are our overlords.
Exactly. Yeah, our culture is like is what makes us individuals and people as a community. Like what brings us together.
Right.
You know, money can bring us together, but that's not going to keep you together. The really good food, I say that. The food and the festivities and the music and the stories and the histories of people bring, you know, each other together. That's how you get to know somebody on a real level, not on a superficial level. That's what goes on through times. That's, you know, you look at our fairy tales and all of that, and they're derived from the dirtiest of the raunchy of the vulgar, you know, somewhat truths. It depends on what you believe, and I, for one, do. Like, I am an avid believer in mythology and things of the sort. I love it. But I think that if we weren't as vocal as a species as we are, we wouldn't have the same histories, and we would be even farther into a programmed mindset than we already are. And I think that that's what we're heading towards if we don't force ourselves to move away from it.
Very well put.
Thanks. I was like, just make sure you pronounce everything slowly so you don't fuck it up. Thanks. THX.
There's always moments like during like an episode where like a guest will be talking. I'll be like, ooh, that's a good soundbite.
Yes. Daddy brought it home.
Daddy Dusty will be back.
Join us for another sultry sounds of the soothing S's. Shit and Sully and Soot.
I love alliteration. I was really proud of myself as far as a lyricist once, because I incorporated colors and alliteration. It was passion, pink, plum, periwinkle, peach, persimmon, Persian, purple, pumpkin, platinum, Prussian blue. These are colors P for you.
See, that's dope as hell. And I would love that. Like, I would, if my brain could even think of that. It might on some capacity. But if my brain could put that all together, my mouth would literally just die. Like, I think my lips would just start to like peel off or melt off maybe, and my teeth would just like crumble as if they were dust, and my tongue would just spill out, because you know it goes on for like miles. And I would just be like,
I've always kind of been like a rather rhythmic person. I won. I got to Catholic.
I am by myself. Does that count?
I'm more of a free jazz kind of rhythm kind of gal. That's just me.
You know, it really depends on how many people are around. If it's just one, and by one I literally mean me by myself, no cats, no dogs, no bubble, then I'm perfect. Okay? Some of my pitch is off, but my dance, vocals, they're all on point. You start bringing creatures into that breathe, and I'm like, fuck. What was that? You mean left is down? Okay. My brain doesn't like other things. Like, I don't know. It's just like, oh, malfunction. Error. Powering off.
Our rhythm core just shut down, sir. Well, best leave it off for now. No sense in turning it back up. It'll take too long, Private.
Have you tried turning it off and on again? No, I haven't, thanks.
My switch broke off years ago.
Oh, God. That was the first time I fell off the horse, okay?
I had, I think before I got to Catholic school, I started piano lessons. I don't remember much from piano lessons. I can play a piano, but I'm not a piano player. Like,
Right.
I can compose stuff for the piano and then be like, I need someone to play this.
You're right. You can hear it and make it sound good. Like, you can make stuff sound good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I can sit down and be like, wow, he's really playing the piano well.
Right.
And it's just like, I'm really not.
But it's all up there, and it's all just these work together.
A lot of times,
Yeah.
because it's kind of opposite the way my brain works with the hand with string instruments, so I'll swap my right, my left hand.
You're getting fancy with it. You're just putting a little pinkies out. You know what I mean? But you need your pinkies, so that's where the arm cross comes.
Yeah, exactly. Because my pinkies are not that strong.
Right. And like they've got to do work, so you just gotta. You can't see that, but I mean, just a few hand motions and a few little magic fingers.
That's all you need. But when I got to Catholic school, they started. I was 7, and they started. Oh my gosh, terrible bonkers. They started like teaching us like dance and like music and like poetry and whatnot. Like they would have us like do public speaking, and sometimes it would be prose, sometimes it would be poetry.
Which I think is essential.
Yeah.
Interjection right there.
My booty hole never got violated by a priest or a nun. I was happy for that.
Well, I'm very fortunate for you. Like, it's very fortunate to hear that, and I really hope, because I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that it's dwindling down, and I feel like
I don't think it is. I really don't.
Technology is a lot more open and accessible, so I'm hoping that if that's one of the good things that we can get out of it. It's like things are exposed. So granted, like they may not be decreasing at an excessive rate or a steady pace, but they are decreasing, and others that would like contemplate that are getting scared, hopefully.
I think that is one of the pros that what became the QAnon conspiracy group kind of brought to the forthright, which was like, hey, human trafficking and pedophilia cartels are a thing.
So real.
And like it needs to be addressed. Mm-hmm. And then of course all that gets demonized because they're like, and Donald Trump is digging tunnels underground, pulling kids out of cages. It's like no, they're still putting kids in cages.
Right, like
the cages got built before he got there. He's just still putting them in there.
Right.
Like,
there's a lot of kids, okay? I don't think people understand quite how many chitlins there are.
Yeah.
Like, I stopped at 1. I got my shit. No, okay? And I love my son to death, but I fully intended to adopt. Not because I didn't want children of my own, whatever. I was indifferent, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
But there are it goes back to me being a kid and having that same mindset that I still fucking have today with homeless people. There are plenty of people on the world today. There are plenty of children and innocent people that just need love, and not only love, but just a genuine sense of compassion and education to help them get anywhere they want to go, because the possibilities
they
are
need
endless.
Parents.
Right, the possibility, and real parents. There are a lot of shitty ass fucking parents. Referring to the podcast that I listen to, like there are some shitty ass fucking parents that I literally just want to rip their fucking heads off and shove it up. I want to get violent with them. I was
very, very blessed. Like parents I got, so I hit the jackpot as far as like having good parents.
I got very blessed as well. Like I have my traumas, which is for a different time, because my demons are my own and I'm okay with them.
Yeah,
I'm fully believe that because the shit has happened to me, it has opened my eyes so that I can help other people. Possibly, I have that possibility, but I'm also strong enough. And I'm going to continue to work to get stronger and be stronger. There's somebody else out there that if they got dealt the same situation, would not be able to handle it the same. They would break under pressure. They'd become a serial killer, or they'd kill themselves, or something like that type of, or they'd do it to somebody else, their own children.
Right.
And so like, I look at it that way, and I'm very thankful that I got dealt the life that I did because of that. Just my little mindset on it. But
But a lot of people don't have that mindset. That's the thing.
No, and they really don't. And then and as you grow up, as you become an adult and meet other people, and hear their stories, if you take the time to listen and look at, body language and cues and stuff like that, flags, you can see just how many people don't agree with that mindset, or like are completely okay with breaking their kid's leg and being like, well, you'll deal with it. We'll take it to the hospital tomorrow.
Well, I mean, there's got to be. I mean, as much fun as it sounds to kick the shit out of like a toddler, I'm sure it's a lot of fun
because they can fight back, and it's like fighting a fucking gremlin. So you might die, but also, dude, you break its leg, it's down. You win. Yes, next level. That's why you have multiple kids, multiple levels.
Now I get it.
You just gotta space them out appropriately. That's what people are doing wrong.
It makes sense though, because like you got to give I say like 2 years,
at least 2 years,
and then conceive again, right? Mm-hmm. So then you have like 2 year and like 40 weeks offset.
Right.
In between, so that gives you plenty of time.
At different strength levels, different, whatever. Teach them a style of kung fu, so you got an added challenge in there, right? Don't let them know. You let them pick the style of kung fu. There you go. Like that's the boss level. That's the boss level. I've figured it out. You're welcome. Where's my $1 million? I'll take it. I'll take it in direct deposit. Thank you.
I have counseling sessions.
Oh, counselor or therapists have field days with me, so bring on the counselors.
I've avoided having to ever speak with a psychoanalyst.
I stupidly, and I say stupidly kind of sarcastically because I do know, some of the things wrong with me because of that. But I initially as an adult, because as a child, whenever I was sent to a therapist, which was only a couple of times, I was forced by school or my parents, I fucking hated it. Like I still, and to this day, I hate therapy. Like I fucking hate therapy. Fuck off. But
do you think it's been beneficial for you though?
Only to solidify what I already knew. Like I knew from the time I was 7 years old that I was depressed. Like I knew from that day to today, I don't want to wake up in the morning. I would be content with, not being here personally. But also, there are so many people that are happier that I'm here.
I'm happy you're here.
You know what I mean?
You're one of my favorite people.
And I'm so thankful for that. Like I'm so appreciative. And there are people that depend on, just being able to talk to me once every 4 years, or getting that type of advice, any bullshit advice, like how do I cook this onion, like bullshit, literally bullshit advice. And like my son, I can't think about what I might do if I weren't here for him. And
who would break his leg in 2 years?
Exactly. When that bitch turns 4 years old, who do you think's gonna push him off the top of the house first? Like, I'm running for that. I'm running. But and so like I won't ever attempt anything that I've attempted in the past or what, and I've grown a lot. But that goes back to me like I'm glad that I've been dealt the life that I have, because other people would not still be here today. Other people would not be trying that hard. And I get the opportunity to share and to possibly, just possibly, change one person's day every day. Like that's the way I look at every day, and I struggle with it sometimes, but if I can just make one person look at life just a little bit more beautiful, because the world itself, minus humans and even sometimes humanity, is so fucking astounding and beautiful. Oh my god.
I think people are awesome. Like,
and they can be. It's just not all the time.
Well, yeah.
And
well, so is nature too. If you're getting mauled by tigers or bears,
right?
It's not so beautiful, you know. But that's there.
Absolutely not. But like sometimes, you know, people are everywhere, and there's very few spots on this world today that aren't civilized, like aren't populated. I won't say aren't civilized because there are a lot that aren't civilized, but aren't populated by some sort of people or tribe or group. You know, so sometimes you have to take humanity out of that, especially to see the beautiful. Like to watch the rain fall and just think about how the wind blows and the clouds are moving to make it a certain angle, and just the cycle of life that brings, hydrating the grass, and, you know, it's like stuff like that is so beautiful. So if I can make somebody or help somebody just possibly have a better day or think about something like that, and it just make them smile, like genuinely smile, my day is set. You know, and if I can learn, I try and learn at least one new thing a day, because if you're not learning, you're dying. That's when I think you're dead. If you stop learning, if you stop wanting to learn, you're done. You're done living, because what else is there?
Well, you figured it out.
Right, exactly. Like, you're not striving for anything else. If you're not striving for physical health or what, like some type of physical goal, like what are you striving? Like, and you don't have to strive for that, but mentally, if you get stagnant, you literally die. Like, you think that's what happens. I mean, not scientifically,
but I mean, kind of scientifically, they say, like, you know, whenever people get out of retirement, if they don't do anything, then they just sort of wither away.
And that's when their health literally bombs down. And you're absolutely right. That's when everything starts to turn. So a lot of them find hobbies that don't always work, or they start working again, or they pick up job-like hobbies where they're like woodworking and they sell it on the side, or they paint, or they become a musician because they've always liked playing it on the side, but they've had a fucking full-time job forever,
right,
working 20 hours a fucking day, you know. And they just got the time. But, you know, so I'm always trying to learn. But that's just what I try and do every day if I can. And I yell at a lot of people, and I make a lot of people feel bad. So it evens out, right? It's give and take.
Well, you can't be like this magnanimous, like, kind creature all the time. You know?
Well.
I have screamed foul, disgusting hatred, vitriol at nobody just from, like, receiving an email before, and
those are the best.
I just need that purge. Like, thank goodness that, like, no one's around, and I'm out here in the country, because I'm like roaring.
Right, you literally, it's like you're literally opening your valve. You just have to let the steam out, just so you can, like, feel normal again, and that's okay. Like, that's a healthy expression of emotion. It's really what it is. I was going to say anger or whatever, but it's not what that is. It's just a healthy expression of emotion.
Yeah.
Because many emotions can make you cry. I laugh so hard I cry all the fucking time. Literally almost every day. I say literally, but almost every single day I've laughed until I cried. Whether because of myself, my son, or my partner Jake. Like, we're idiots.
I'll cackle with no one around, and just like sometimes I'll think about how odd it'll be if someone is, like, spying or looking at us, because I'll just be sitting here.
At least I'm not alone.
And just nothing is being said, nothing's happening, and just like, because something will just pass in my mind, you know.
Right.
And then Barkers will just sort of, like, look at me like.
Right. I've been alone, or like I've been at work alone, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, okay, well. Thanks, guys. I appreciate if you'll just watch my back for me while I go run and get this, you know, or talk, or like I talk and announce, like, as if I'm on a TV show, and then, you know, next we're gonna chop the asparagus, or well, it's not true. I mean, you do cut some asparagus, but I don't chop it. I have no reason to chop it into small bits. I eat the whole fucker. Like,
what? I don't understand, like, why you would. Like, I'm picturing now, like cubes.
Exactly. Right, exactly. I'm like, you know, whatever. Just say the first words that come to your brain with food. It works. There's going to be somebody out there. And they're going to be, oh, yeah, dude, chopping the asparagus. Dude, I've got you. I'm going to put that in my next meal. No, don't. Just chop off the stocky end that comes out of the fucking ground, please.
The one thing no one has sold me on ever has been cauliflower.
I love cauliflower. Okay.
It tastes like nothing. It's just matter that has the texture of broccoli.
Do you like tofu?
I mean,
I'm asking because
I'll eat it.
Okay, so do you eat cauliflower?
No.
Okay, okay. First, part one. Part A. So tofu is essentially the squishy version of cauliflower, if what you're saying is true.
But I mean, tofu also kind of like it tastes like nothing.
Well, that's cauliflower.
They
tofu,
just add
flavored.
seasoning to it to make it seem like, oh, this is meat.
Have you not had seasoned cauliflower?
I have, but it just tastes like cauliflower.
Have people been doing you wrong?
Well, like I'm not a big cabbage fan, but I'll fuck up an egg roll. You know what I mean? Because it's got other flavors in there. I'm sure tofu has something other than just cauliflower.
I watch a show on Netflix. I think it's called The Chef's Table or something or whatnot, and they set it on there. And I live. That's another thing that I follow with thoroughly because I am such a picky eater. I'm a picky person. I'm picky. There's picky, and then there's picky.
I like to say particular.
I'm particularly picky. But I'm always willing to try stuff, especially when it comes to food, because not everything is cooked the right way. And a lot of people like to say they know how to cook shit, but they don't. And a lot of people have been, I say a lot of people, always generally speaking, but a lot of people have been to cooking in culinary school. Doesn't mean that they know how to properly season. And I'm telling you this right now, okay? A lot of palates are vary along with the next person and the next person and the next person. But you probably haven't had it cooked right.
Maybe not. If you brought me cauliflower and you're like
next time I come
Colter,
over, we'll cook together.
All right.
We'll make an ASMR and we'll cook. The sizzling sounds of the grease, you know. I made a garlic confit with my shrimp that I made last night.
I believe it's pronounced scrimp.
It's scrimp. Shrimp? May I please get some shrimp?
It sounds like a shrimp, like cannibalizing or something. Shrimp? Like some shrimp.
It's delicious. And I just recently learned what a confit was, and you're really just for the garlic, you coarsely chop up the garlic. I just have the cloves, and you put a drizzle of oil in there, and you're almost you're browning the garlic to a point where it's almost too dark brown, and it's a teaspoon to a tablespoon of oil. So and oil doesn't evaporate. You know, like butter cooks down and stuff.
Right.
It will, just not near as fast.
You use olive oil or?
I used olive oil, which has a pretty low smoking point. So you want to use like medium to medium high heat. I just kept it on medium and fully preheated my pan. Which if you watch cooking shows and stuff, they always just preheat your pan, kind of like preheating your oven. It just works better that way. But I put the garlic in there with the oil after it was fully heated and let it get almost like dark brown, like your little bowl. And what it does is those oils from the garlic are pulled out as it's cooking, and you keep it in larger pieces so it doesn't instantly burn.
Right.
And it seasons and flavors the oil along with it. So when you add the shrimp, they take on, when they're cooking in that oil, they get absorbed into, it gets absorbed into the shrimp, and it has a wonderful, nice, almost caramelized garlic flavor added to it.
I love garlic.
It's really,
it's the most delicious thing on the planet.
I use garlic in everything, like everything. Vampires hate me. Mosquitoes love me, so I don't know.
My old girlfriends, I would always dip their tampons in garlic butter, so I really, really enjoy garlic.
I loved that. And at first I was like, where is he going with this?
Just that. That's
I
all
know,
it is.
and I had to you started the statement, and I was like, where is he going with this? And then if I get finished, and I was like, oh my god, he went there, and I loved it. Thank you. I see it. There was almost a tear. You almost got me.
Shame has that with people. It does with me anyway. It's like, oh god, why did I agree to do this show?
Hey, I love it. I'm having a blast so far.
Wow, this is awesome.
This is brilliant.
So we were talking briefly last night when we were texting about space.
Yeah, I believe the planets are eggs to like just bust her in there, like busted into lube. Sometimes you just gotta bend it over. But yeah, so, you know, because if you look at just the basic textbook half sphere, it's not a sphere because it's 2D, but the picture of the half of the Earth, you know, and you look at the same of an egg, they are literally almost the same, except one is more fucking spherical. Like, there's a nucleus, there's the fucking white part, you know, or whatever. And then we have this thin little fucking outside crust, just like a shell.
Yeah.
And as the fucking chick, and that's because I'm using a chicken egg, but really you can use literally any egg you want. As the egg grows and fertilizes and becomes whatever it is, it grows, expanding, and that heat pops out. Okay, let's compare that to the Earth real quick. With our fucking crust and our fucking center nucleus of magma. I almost said schmagma. It's almost like,
well, if we're dipping tampons in garlic butter, I mean,
you know, let's fucking have it. But with the magma and our core of liquid lava, we've got volcanoes that are sprouting up more and more common now. If you look at it, and more frequently in the past, 50 to 100 years than they have been in the past couple thousands of years. I mean, that rate is increasing, and I don't quote me on this because I didn't do avid research. I fucking believe the planet's an egg. Like, what? Before somebody comes back and they're like, actually, statistically speaking, ma'am, fuck you.
I was just talking with my friends Mike and Blake before you got here, and we were talking about doing like a podcast in a couple of weeks about like archaic civilizations and flat Earth. So Earth as an egg. Oh no.
Right.
You're in good territory.
Right. Really contradicting theories here.
Well, if you think about it, even like if you take like the globular model, the egg still works because like our atmosphere is another shell, right? It's this nesting doll that keeps going further in.
Okay. See it does.
So I'm all on board with Earth as an egg. Yeah.
So yeah, but volcanoes are coming out and they are erupting more and more frequently, just as our atmosphere, which is getting thinner. Our ozone layer is getting super, super thin lately, not our atmosphere. And it's getting hotter and hotter. And as an egg would crack from the inside out, it's kind of what the Earth is doing, if you think about it, with all of the tsunamis that have been happening and the storms, which I know they're coming from, they come from the moon's phases and all of that in the clouds, all that basic science stuff. But a lot of that has to go with the shifting of the plates as well, because every cause has a reaction. There are consequences to everything that you choose to do, much like everything that fucking happens. I say that word so much. Everything that happens with nature causes something else, the butterfly effect, as the Chinese proverb once so confusingly stated. I had to choose my words carefully. I was like, "Where are you going?"
Sometimes
Don't
I'll just
lead it.
Sometimes I'll just stutter off into nothing, and then 10 seconds later, I'll be like, bear.
Right. I do it with my. It's a habit. You know. At least the thought is there. You put in the effort. You just kind of trailed off. Took a water break.
There was this one thing I came across that was talking about, speaking of like eruptions and whatnot, around 1812, that there was a series of earthquakes in America in the Mississippi Valley. Like there were, I think, 5 or 6 within 6 weeks that were like a 6 point something on the Richter scale, like
wow,
big earthquakes, and in the middle of the tectonic plate. So like they still are just like, we don't really understand how this happened, because normally earthquakes happen where 2 plates meet.
Because of the shifting, and then
Right.
it's like, ooh, we don't like you, ooh,
Right.
ooh, chafing.
And this caused like massive soil liquefaction in the middle of the country, to the point where the earth behaves like liquid. So like all these trees, it's kind of like a mudslide, but it's not the same thing as a mudslide. It's still caused from like an earthquake,
right?
Where it's
just that reverberation kind of.
Exactly, yeah. So these shock waves reverberate so heavily that it causes everything that is not earth to sink down to the bedrock, or to be moved with the earth.
Right, because it's particles, millions and thousands and billions of particles individually compacted together. So yeah, if that starts shifting like an hourglass, and I think of Aladdin when I think of this, it's the first Aladdin. I was about to say from The Return of Jafar, but when he traps Jasmine into the sand. Or into the hourglass, and the sand starts falling on her. Like if you shift from the bottom, when she finally shifts from the bottom and she's being pulled out and it breaks free or whatnot, if it weren't for that, she would have been compacted.
Yeah.
And it was because she already had her hand out the freaking top, like a little pussy, that she was able to be pulled for freedom once it broke, and because it was broken, was able to dispense everywhere. But I mean, that's how the dirt works. It's compacted down due to gravity.
Yeah.
So if you were to fuck that up from the bottom, imagine standing on it. I mean, just imagine being there and then having to die that way.
There's here. I normally don't like to pull out the phone for interviews and whatnot, but there's this experiment you can do. You can take like a jacuzzi tub, right?
Right. And
you fill it with sand or earth or whatnot, and you run a PVC pipe with holes, and you just hook it up to like an air compressor, and you can mimic soil liquefaction.
Imagine the skeletons you would find from the animals.
Yeah, or like I
mean, any any type of population that was there.
That's one. There's a conspiracy. It's a historical one called Mud Flood, where the idea is that there was already a civilization here in America that was not exclusively nomadic. That like you had like big cities.
Right. That's settled.
Yeah, and that the idea, I guess, is around like 1812 when these earthquakes were happening in the middle of the country, and also there were like new islands that were forming and then would just disappear after a couple of days, like in the middle of like the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
And then you started having Europe kind of invading again, not just the Americas, but like in Argentina and in Brazil. Like Europe sort of like came back like heavier, so it kind of points to like a new takeover. But these the notion is that these buildings that we see, that's this neoclassical Greco-Roman architecture in big cities, that they're like, oh well, they built this in the 19th century as an homage to the old school style of buildings, and it was built very quickly in these years. But since they started excavating these buildings, they see that the fronts of the buildings actually go down into the earth, like
Right.
all the way down. So it's like, it doesn't make sense why they would build columns under the earth and all this ornate architecture under the earth
Right.
as well. Like, so it looks like these entire cities sort of sank, or if they were already rested on bedrock, the soil would rise. But
Venice. I mean, Venice is going underwater still to this day further. So that is crazy. So, and you know, it's being. That is crazy.
yeah. You can get Earth to behave like a liquid just by using air to kind of come up, and what it does, it separates all of the water and molecules from all the different types of Earth molecules. So it's all just density at that point. So it's like, okay, well, if all this Earth is loose, and now I think that's more dense than the air around
Right.
it falls because there's more
Like
air distributed.
Yeah, like any liquid.
Yeah.
That is so wild.
Yeah, so it was strong enough to shift the entire Mississippi River in certain places and even send it backwards momentarily. So the river flow wasn't technically going backwards, but because there was so much
Right.
shockwave coming out, and in the middle of the country.
That it would that it changed the current temporarily.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous. I mean, fully believable, especially with anything you think of. I mean, like, the world itself is crazy. But then I was thinking about it on the way over here. How wild is it that there are ants, right? And then ants think they're the biggest. Well, I mean, they don't think they're the biggest thing in the world because they don't have a brain, like a functioning brain like that, like a thought process. But we as humans think we're, the shit. But people are so big, and then we've expanded so much, and we just have the earth, and then that's it. And then there's a whole atmosphere outside of that, which is even bigger and more vast. And then outside of that, we have space, which is so infinite that we have whole other galaxies and black holes, which we can't even get through because it sucks up everything. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know what's on the.
Let me ask you this: do you think it's more likely that travel to other universes and galaxies is through space travel or through interdimensional travel?
So I think that.
I still want to get back to planets as eggs.
Yeah,
as well, but
absolutely. I was like, I'm about to bring this back.
Actually, while you think about that, let me pee real quick because I gotta pee
absolutely.
beforehand. All right, sorry, y'all.
Okay. Where are we leaving off? Space, interdimensional. So I think that's a big question for me. I love it. I think that space travel is needed for interdimensional travel.
Do you?
In its early stages. I think that that's how we advance ourselves towards it, along with technology. I mean, because we are we're continuing to try and strive and go, where we haven't gone before, but also I think that space and time are more kind of relative. And it's about discovering that plane that we haven't been able to discover yet. To find that relativity, because right now they're pretty set it's set in indefinite parameters. But I think that's only because that's what we know. That's what we can acknowledge. That's
Right.
what we have the technology and capability of understanding right now. But I don't think that's all of them. So I think the time really is kind of like multiple strings, and they weave. And space is just kind of like the giant bubble that encapsulates all of it. Space is infinite, and time is just a web. And it's whether or not we're capable of getting to those different points on the web, to whether or not we can understand like interdimensional travel, because I think that's where it kind of lies at.
I think that would be the only way that we would be able to explore the cosmos would be through folding space-time.
Like A Wrinkle in Time.
I never read it.
Oh,
I never read a lot as a kid. I read the encyclopedia. I liked it.
I read a dictionary, so we're not far off.
I love reading the dictionary because I could always discover new words.
My mother got me a high school dictionary at the time. That's what it was called. And I read that thing so many times, and up until my dog literally chewed it up.
Said too many words. He didn't like it.
Right. He didn't understand them.
He was envious. His throat doesn't have the capability to produce words, only sounds.
Exactly. He was just like, oh, okay.
Poor
You
fella.
like words more than me? I got you.
But no, I would think that I don't think our atmosphere we can get out of, because it's a closed system. You know what I mean? For a planet to have to work, for Earth to have to work, it has to be a closed system.
Like a circuit.
Yeah, because you can't have I don't even think space is a vacuum. I think it's more of a void, which isn't the same. You know?
Yeah, no.
But it's you can't have a vacuum and an atmosphere next to each other unless you have a partition. Like, you have to have a partition.
Otherwise, they would there's
otherwise
nothing
you're
stopping those two forces from reacting.
Precisely, and the notion of gravity holds it in. It's like, I don't think so, man. Like,
No, I think that is holding in the gravity.
Yeah, like it makes like if you have like a gyroscope or something that you can use to create artificial gravity, essentially. That
the same concept.
Yeah, you have to have a framework for it to be able to operate within.
Yes.
So I would think that like something like a Stargate, where you can fold dimensions, or just taking a ridiculous amount of like too much of like DMT or LSD or
strong hallucinogen, like strong.
Yeah.
And I put emphasis on that wholeheartedly, because like mushrooms and stuff. Natural I mean, I'm sure you could eventually overdose on natural mushrooms.
I think you could, because there's probably a toxicity with it at some point.
I mean, and mushrooms are toxic. It's really, depends on what type of mushroom it is, and those aren't toxic mushroom. It's just very minutely toxic.
The onset with them with me, maybe TMI for the listeners, I don't really care. But anytime I've had mushrooms where my stomach will start breaking it down, I'll be like, oh, I think I need to poop.
That's a very common effect.
As I learned.
When we had just graduated, and me and rest in peace Devin McGee and a few other friends who were all living together, and we had I don't know everybody that was there, but whoever else was there was unimportant. But Devin's aunt owned the house. That's why he's important, because his aunt literally owned the house, and she had moved away, and she was gonna sell it, so she let us live in it up until she sold it. But Devin had to live, he had to be the primary person there, and then I was the second primary. But we had just graduated or whatever, and somebody had gotten mushrooms, somebody had gotten acid, and somebody had gotten ecstasy. I don't know. I'm telling you, I mean, you do you. Whatever you do you. But I don't know why my stupid ass mixed those. Like, we like, oh, what? And they were mad. They were just picked mushrooms, too. They weren't synthetic.
I never saw, like, the synthesized mushrooms until after I lived out of the South.
I was in Valdosta when the first time I saw synthetic mushrooms.
Really?
Yeah, and it was in chocolate.
No, like, that I've seen. Chocolate's interesting because, like, it's you know,
It
way
breaks down a lot better.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have this thick, fibrous material of like a dried mushroom, or even the wet mushrooms.
Which I don't mind. But the wet mushrooms are so much worse. Oh my gosh, the slimy, and then you get the grittiness from the dirt. And but
then you have to tell yourself that like this didn't come out of poop.
It's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it. I mean, you do rinse them off, but you can't get everything. You really can't. And then there's gonna be a bug or two. Like, let's be real. You're not from, like, you haven't grown. I can't say you're not from, because I'm not from. But you haven't grown up in the South. If you haven't mistakenly, or I mean purposely too, but if you haven't mistakenly eaten a bug on a mushroom right before you're tripping, you know. There are a lot of people who are going to be like, I never did that. Bitch, you're right. You just spread your legs. Yeah.
That's how I got here.
Hey, that's how I got here too. It's a little leg
mushroom
spread.
And spread legs.
My parents loved a good time. They didn't do that, but they toned it down when they had kids eventually.
I don't know if they actually were on mushrooms or not. But.
I know my parents had trip. You know, they had done, they had done some drugs, and they're teenage adulthood.
My dad told me what's that? I was telling somebody about a friend of mine had just took a bunch of acid one day and decided to just go hitchhiking and see America. My dad's like, been there before. He told me he had hitchhiked once to Detroit, from like West Virginia to Detroit to go see a concert. I was just like, holy shit. Like,
my father, get this. My father, after he got out of the military and he had divorced one of his wives, he was married 3 times total, my mom the 3rd time. So this was in between the first and second wife at some point. My father decided he was going to just go see the countryside, like explore the West Coast countryside. Okay, no problem. Dig it. Cool, Dad. Awesome. This fool, this is what this man does. I love this man to death. He would go to a town or a city, wherever he wanted to go, and then he had his duffel bag and he would just camp somewhere in the wood line, and he'd get a job somewhere. And then he'd find a pretty lady. Okay? I think we can see where this is going. He would find a pretty lady, and then they'd start dating or whatever. And then after a little while, they'd been having sex, going out. They'd be like, take me back to your place. And he'd be like, okay, babe. And he'd take her back to the woods or whatever. And then, so they'd feel bad and be like, oh, you can stay with me. And he would then move in temporarily with his girlfriend at the time, until he got bored of the job and the girlfriend. And then he would go to the next city and do the same thing. And that's what he did all up the West Coast.
Sounds like a fun time.
Like, okay, Dad. Fucking just getting it in.
Figuratively and literally.
Right. And that's awesome. That's so cool, other than all the sex. But I'm like a big, have sex with whoever you want, you know, whatever, just be safe. Back in the day, who was being safe? I mean, you know, it's not like there was a giant AIDS epidemic or anything. That's not even real.
And then they had birth control.
What was that?
You could just, pop in a pill.
So, you know, they both got to see the sights. Just apparently different sights.
My parents did, for baby boomers, they didn't get married. It was my dad's second marriage. Mm-hmm. I think he was 30 and my mom was 28. Like, they got married like pretty late for baby boomers.
My mom was older than my dad. Me. Like mother, like daughter.
But they had I think it was around the time like I had like my first like serious girlfriend. I had like, they knew I was like sleeping with her and whatnot. They were not overjoyed at that. But they
Who is? I mean, like, as parents.
yeah,
That's
not just me getting laid in general.
Oh, okay. What a remark. I talk about my childhood, and she's like, "Oh, okay. Who wants to know?"
No, but they were like they're like, you know, you should see what the world has to offer, you know, not just
That's
jump right in.
way to beat around the bush.
Yeah. But they were right though. Like,
Yeah,
like
hindsight.
oh yeah, hindsight. Like, I am totally
As always.
glad. Like, because I know me. I know how slutty I have been in the past, and I know that I would have gotten bored with just only
Right.
knowing one person.
So instead of being able to be happy, you would have chosen adult. Like, if you chose that path, it would have been adultery. Because I mean, if you're together longer than 7 years, it's common law marriage anyway.
Right.
So you would have been an adulterer and miserable, and then that's an added bit of misery because you're having to keep a secret, and whether or not they know, they're never going to know, because then that's going to break the marriage apart. This is the South. Let's be real. We know how Southern relationships tend to go from back in the day, and I mean that. Like, my parents included, because my
Well, the church used to have a stranglehold on sort of these ideas that of what a marriage was supposed to be, what a family was supposed to be, and then the 60s happened, and then this whole notion of we'll decide how our family is going to be, or like ourselves or whatnot, and especially like around here, because I mean, the religious right is the most dominant culture.
to this day.
Yeah,
That and sports, which is another religion.
it is.
That's why they don't want. I mean, I'm all for not having religion in government and schools, because that's something that you should. That's religion. That's not spirituality, which I think everybody should learn. Religion is something that is created by a fucking person. You change my mind. You won't, so don't take your time. It's an institution. Religion is an institution.
Yeah,
institution is made by a human.
Yeah, it's not something to be worshipped.
No, not at all.
The divine is something to be worshipped. You know?
And there is so much that is divine, and that's where spirituality comes in. Which I think, if you are going to evolve, and I say evolve, which I really truly mean enlighten. But it is a type of evolution. But if you're going to enlighten yourself, you have to have that spirituality, because it helps you open your mind to other things that are unknown, and I mean fully unknown, such as ghosts. Because I believe in ghosts. So real. Oh, they're so real.
What do you think ghosts are?
I'm still trying to figure that out. I think it's similar to different energy sources from different planes, because I believe in a form of reincarnation. I believe that there's a certain set of lessons, quote unquote, and I don't know what that set is, so don't at me. I'm not gonna I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out as I go every day and breathe, but I believe that there's a certain amount of lessons that we need to learn in our life, that in the mortal life that you lead, from the time that your innocence is broken, which is at different ages, and different mentalities grow at different rates, sexuality, gender, all these things play variables. It's at different rates for different people, but your mortal life. And if you've learned that lesson, or that group of lessons in that mortal life, when you die, you elevate, and you don't necessarily get anything better. But when you come back, when you are reincarnated, you come back to an easier set, a more successful life set, so to speak, so that you are maybe more fortunate, or handed more opportunities, or maybe born with a silver spoon in your mouth, so to speak,
Or in your butt.
Hey,
Yeah.
whichever way and you prefer, and then how you live that life determines whether or not you either regress or stay the same, or enlighten further and have more success and more gratitude. And I mean success, not just material success, because there are different types, but
it's all about what you want to succeed in,
right. And so say that you live a very beneficial life for other people, and it behooves you to help people cross the road, or like help an old person put their groceries in and drive their cart up to it because they're struggling, just for an example. Or if you are going about your day literally working your hardest to save the environment and help other things and people around you, if you're making your life better by helping others, then you will continue to align yourself. But so on the alternate side of that, say that you want to go around and you're born very fortunate with lots of money or whatever, and you feel like fucking a little boy in his wherever, or you want to beat your partner, or you want to cheat and lie and steal in the extreme ways, and you want to use your power against other people and for strictly your own gain, then when you die that mortal life, then you're going to be given like shit. Like, you're going to be homeless. You're going to be literally having to crawl, not even walk, crawl through maybe sewers or something that is adequate to the shit that you gave out. You're going to receive that. And I don't think I think karma's real, but I don't believe in instant karma. As in, I don't think that the karma that you're building up you necessarily get in this life.
No, karma's got a lag behind it. It's
right.
always watching.
Right, and consequences do have their immediate actions, but as far as karma, I think that happens, after you die, whenever it's deciding what the fuck is going to happen to you after we end this mortal world, because it's only a certain amount of time anyway. It's so short in the life, and how long we know time to even exist, whether or not you debate your time frames on how long the world has been a fucking world. Regardless of that, the years alone, lifespan is short. Even with the extended lifespans that we have today. Sure, so.
Black or not black?
You know what? Give me black like my soul. But bringing back to that also with that reincarnation thing, I think it feeds the vibes and the emotional forces from the human collective and the world collective, because there are different species and things with living heartbeats, and they all, trees can feel pain. I feel like
totally.
I feel like that all the trees collectively send off vibes. And so the earth that's one of the feeding energies. That's what's helping our inner creature grow. Is that hot?
A little bit.
Oh, crazy.
The idea is hot too.
That's what I was referring to.
That goes back to relativity, though.
But I think that's that those energies impact the growth and what becomes of whatever our creature planet is. Which also, I believe, further delving into that the surrounding planets in our solar system is like a cluster of eggs.
So back to this. So I was watching this guy Santos Bonacci on YouTube. He talks a lot about astrotheology as the old world religion, the one religion, sun worship, right? So.
Which is it is a giant ass star, but it's which I think is an incubator. But
it's their idea is that the sun is not a star. The sun is a sun. and the stars are stars. So while there may be the argument that like, well, there's other solar systems out there, they are not a sun as we can. It may be relative to that planet, or those planets could just be like something we see as a gas giant in the sky as well. But our sun is unique to like our world, so that's why like all these cultures like worshipped it, and it was set aside, and it takes down or I shouldn't say takes down. It makes note of things that happened with Rome during the Renaissance, where Jesus was personified. The argument is falsely into a historical character that mimics Julius Caesar, an actual person, wherein the old religion, the Gnostic Christian religion, was that Jesus is the Son of God, the literal Son, our Son. The name Jesus, Apollo, Ra, like all these names, that's the Babel story. It's all of like everyone telling the same thing, and that the 7 wandering stars, or the orbs that we see, including the sun, so the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Mars, and Jupiter. I think that's all of them. Yeah, they didn't see Uranus and Neptune or Pluto further out, but they could see these 7, right? That they all of their characteristics of humanity are attributed in some way to the gods, and in same way with language would have masculine and feminine. They too would have these things like for instance in Spanish, la and el as the
masculine and feminine,
right,
for the kind of,
right, but also like they were also names of gods that relate back to the sun, like the god El and
okay
and La,
right, so where the feminine masculine stemmed from.
Well, and even like all of the planets, like because the moon is feminine, the sun is masculine, but they all of these 7 orbs, these gods that they saw, all attributed personalities, right? On top of that, you also had the 12 zodiac, which they follow every night, right? That's just what they do.
Right.
Their whole culture revolves around the stars and whatnot. So all of the characteristics of the zodiac plus the characteristics of the 7 planets, and depending on where each one is at the time of your birth in the calendar, all these things create a near infinite map of possibilities of human being personality types.
Absolutely.
Right, but that doesn't make sense. Is like this, like, because to them everything was a snow globe, right? The world was round, but they're just inside of it, right? As all this thing, like this gyroscope, is moving around.
That.
But like really fascinating to think about, like just the probability of even that, if that's like something like the Matrix, which I think the idea of the simulation or this being a divine place makes a lot more sense to me than just cosmic happenstance. Like like the ancients didn't believe in that. We don't know shit about what they knew, but they seem to be tapped into something truly divine and on a cultural level.
Because they didn't have. So we are advanced technologically.
We think we are.
We think we are. We are to some degree. We're not like in the big picture. We are so no. And I'm gonna use the man as just a basic ass term, but the man already knows so much more like they're so much farther advanced than they're letting on that we know.
Oh yeah, if we have smartphones, what the fuck do they have?
And they've already admitted to right. The military, look at how far advanced the military technology is alone, just in first world countries. Okay, that's just one that is public, so they're willing to let that be exposed. And even if they try and they do cover up stories all the time, but that's still exposed. There's going to be something that is talked about with it.
Right.
What about the stuff that they're still working on? Because just as scientists do, and mathematicians do, because it's still a type of, like, just as scientists do, they don't like giving out all their work until it's done, because they like knowing everything. It's a power trip. And I know this like just as it's a personality type. Like if you are into research like that, you like having all the answers because you like being like bam 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 bam. Yeah,
I know my stuff. It's memory banking, right? It's not necessarily intelligence, right? So like I'm an idiot, but I'm intelligent, like I can articulate things,
right.
But a big hiccup with it, I find, is that it takes so much to challenge dogma that has become like known as like this narrative in science, and they'll look at the ancients and be like, if only we knew. It's like, well, if you also start adopting like their science and maybe say that like, okay, if we can't get out of Earth, right? Because a lot of scientists are like, well, we can't get past low Earth orbit yet. Like that's as far as we can go. So it's like, okay, so we can't leave Earth. So either
go into Earth.
Yeah. Like what's underneath? We don't know shit about like the planet or anything. So what if there is like something to go into like the ocean that will like fold space-time or a wormhole that'll put you elsewhere in the cosmos?
I don't even want to get started. And furthermore, added like tying that into my planet is the planets are eggs. We really can't get to the bottom of the ocean. For one, it's way too dense. But the abyss, we don't know how deep the abyss really goes in different parts of it. It's for what we know, infinite, because we literally cannot get to the bottom. You cannot, and the ocean is vast. So if the egg were to start hatching, and some eggs hatch multiple. There's not just one being created in the egg.
Yeah, like an egg sac.
Right.
Like spider eggs.
Exactly. Which makes, it's kind of creepy. I love spiders, but But so imagine all these little different creatures hopping out, and it doesn't. We think of creatures all being somewhat similar or having some similar characteristics, but that's just what we know. The possibilities are infinite. You could have literally two different creatures that are of the same mind, but different physical presence and being, because they're meant to go in different places. Because if the world egg is their habitat, they're not necessarily going to be equipped for one thing, or they're not necessarily going to be unable to adapt very rapidly. But the ocean is so large and so vast. Do you really think there aren't creatures that are so smart and so large and so mentally advanced and capable in the ocean, which has been here longer than the land has? And we found dinosaur bones that are how big that we still don't know about, that we can't even process their brains, so we don't even know how smart they were.
There's pyramids in the Caribbean, in the where the Atlantic and the Caribbean sort of meet. There's pyramids underwater that they're explained sometimes as naturally occurring. It's like, you got to be shitting me. Like there's stones and carvings that are underwater where they're like, well, these are naturally occurring. It's like
naturally occurring could be natural, but it doesn't mean something didn't make it.
Exactly. So it's a funny word, right? Natural, because like you can use it to apply to just about anything as being natural. Because violence and malice are natural.
But as soon as it's out of the ordinary, quote unquote, for that old thing, it's unnatural.
Yeah. Well,
it's crazy what connotation that "un" can do to a word.
Well, there's this thing called the theory of everything, right? Where it kind of takes literally everything. It's kind of like the critical theory, where it's like, well, you just criticize everything down into being like. That's the self-critical theory.
I do. When I can stop asking why, I'll be satisfied. But I'm always asking why. So tell me more.
But the theory of everything, it kind of it ignores all this ancient. I don't want to say religion, because science and religion was wed for them. It was this.
Which I think there's a boy genius. Sorry to interject again. There's a boy genius that I watched a short clip on, who is already in college, and he is working to disprove Stephen Hawking's theory about the Big Bang.
Big Bang cosmology.
Whatever theory he created about it, it just started, like how it just started. I'm very illiterate when it comes to that. I have not.
Well, I know Hawking didn't come up with the original Big Bang cosmology.
Or no, that there is no God. I'm sorry, that there is no God, because he was tying in religion, like science and spirituality. I won't use religion because he did, but he's still young. Like, he may be a genius, but you can still mistake religion and spirituality. But he's tying those two together. And when he was delving into it, it was very similar to what you're currently talking about. Let me think about it. Anyway.
But yeah, these the ancients believed in the Earth having special location, that it was the center of like a system. So I think that's one thing that kind of intrigues me about flat Earth, and I think that's why also folks will say like, oh, he's just a flat tart or whatnot. It's like bro, I don't know. It could be this undulating snake of a helix.
Yeah, we really don't
know. We just know that
like,
if you keep going west or you keep going east, eventually you're going to come back to where you were. That's how the Earth works. If you stay due west or due east,
you meet from point A to point B. Point B will eventually turn back into point A.
Right. So I think that's kind of sort of similar to what we were talking about earlier. It's kind of like the smoke and mirrors aspect of it, wherein I think like the heart of it is like these ancient religions believed that the Earth was sacred. It was a special place and a special location, and their science seems to be a lot deeper than we can even fathom.
And that's with all of our advances. Isn't that the crazy? Like, that's what's wild to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's all wild because it's all fascinating. But that's the part that's hard for me to grasp, is why is it so hard to just consider it? Just why not try it out? You know, mm-hmm. It may not work. You're right, but is what you're doing now working? Obviously not.
The whole I don't think the space travel things is real as far as with rocketry. I think that's more smoke and mirrors. That's just me personally. I think if folks are going to truly get to Mars, they're either going to fake it for tourism, right? Or they're going to do some sort of...
Send them off in ships and they'll just die in space.
Or they'll... I think they would take them like someplace like remote, like Greenland or Siberia, right? Where it's really desolate and there's no people around, and then you could just be like, oh yeah, here you are in Mars.
Like SpongeBob. I'm it's funny, and it's a funny
tangent.
Yes, no, tangent's the wrong word. Correlation. There we go. But there's an episode of SpongeBob where Sandy's on the rocket, are going to take the rocket, and then Patrick and SpongeBob are fucking it up. And they make it go off, and then it crash lands back on to Bikini Bottom. They don't even make it out of the ocean. Well, they think that they make it right out of the water, and they go right back in. And they think they're aliens. And they're all just in Bikini Bottom, and then they capture everybody, and Sandy gets mad at them. But that's it. And it's funny because people, like, you don't want to think your fellow brethren are that dumb, but then you know better. And it's either saddening or like funnier or both. But you know, I definitely could believe that. I don't know exactly if I don't know exactly how I feel on space, but I don't think that we are doing what we're saying we're doing.
No, dude, I just don't buy it. Like, I find that if anytime anybody is adamant just about like, we'll just bring it back to just like the Apollo missions, and they're just like use that. I'm like, if you just look into like one, it was being run by a fucking Nazi, Werner von Braun. Like, so.
He was all for killing people that he didn't like. I'm just saying, that's a common,
It's a red flag, as we were talking earlier.
A common thread for Nazis is similar to racism. Crazy how they correlate.
Yeah.
If you don't like somebody, get rid of them.
Yeah. So this guy, I just brought over an Operation Paperclip, and NASA was formed, I think, in 1957. I think was when they officially formed. I could be wrong on that, but anywho, like you look at the footage that like they said like this is real footage. In some places they use like stop motion claymation, like as like you look at it, you're like, that's the real footage, and like that's the official NASA footage.
Right,
one of them they have CGI. This is like 19. I think this is Apollo 16. They're showing the LEM. I think that's the part of the lunar module that can take back off. Showing it blast off from the lunar surface to go back up with the command module, and they put in these CGI sparks. It's like 1970 or 71,
Right.
And not only that, but the camera pans up. So now there's a delay from a signal from 732,000 miles away. So unless they timed it perfectly using that kind of technology, which head shaking already, like what? But if they would have to have left an astronaut on the moon to be like, all right, Greg, now we take off, film us, we'll come back.
Right.
Even though we're leaving our legs down here. But,
right, like, no.
But
there's no, yeah.
So like I don't think it's accurate, and yet they're still like, when it comes to their PR department, they're still the official word on space and everything. So I think what eventually because they're planning everything they're planning for is a 22nd century, right? And so they know that eventually trust in NASA they're either going to have to burn the vault, right, which they've kind of already started doing. They deleted the telemetry data, which why the fuck would you do that for the moon mission?
Right, like what need do you have to burn up something that far in the past that is seemingly unimportant?
Yeah.
Like there's what are you hiding?
Yeah. So I think that's why something like SpaceX has kind of come along and been like, oh, this is an opportunity, more or less, to sort of challenge the narrative, I guess. I'm still not sure what exactly to make of it. It could just also be like another psyop,
What I know it's not going to happen because I have way too high hopes, and also you'll understand when I'm finished. What I hope for us to visit Mars is Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I've never seen it.
Oh my Lord, my heart! It's so good. He pulls this big ass marble thing out of his nose, and he's like, it's so great. And
I wonder which Arnold meme or GIF that came from. I know what scene you're talking about.
There's so many, and there's a woman in there with 3 tits.
I've heard about that.
It's great.
Isn't
Gary
there...
Oldman's in it. It's great.
Gary Oldman's probably
There's
the best actor.
There's quite a few well-known names in there, honestly, too. I was like, oh, because we watched it again recently. It's so good, and I love it. I still prefer it to the remake. I'm not a big fan of remakes, also, but whatever. But Total Recall is so awesome, and I like that there's aliens on it, and they have a secret thing to release oxygen so it's capable for human inhabitants to come live on it. Okay. And I'm just like, but that's what I want to be real. I want aliens to have been like, dude, humans are gonna suck so bad they need another planet to destroy. Let's just make this one capable of suiting humans for when they get ready, okay? It'll take them a while. Whatever, we can set it and forget it, right? But they're gonna need it one day. So let's just help them out. Or it could be an advanced form of humans. You know, that's a little bit more believable.
I was going to ask this when we were talking about the ocean earlier. Do you think that there would be conscious beings outside
Yes.
of visible light?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Do you think those would necessarily be the ghosts, or would they just be like alive
No.
but outside of visible light?
I think, because evolution's a crazy ass thing, you know, evolution's crazy. But at that deep, if they were suitable to handle any type of light, I don't see why anything that sentient would. So I think that there are sentient, advanced beings that far in the ocean. I do not think they're equipped to handle any type of light, and I do not think that they would ever come to any type of area that they would be exposed to light, or if something were like if the environment were to change past a certain degree, like say we were able to get deep enough, lights on our submarine, like on anything like that, they would run and hide from it just because it would be so damaging, just based off of.
Yeah, I wonder like how their perception of visible light would be.
I think it would be like a temperature thing, because I don't think they would have actual eyesight, and I think that they would have the mental capacity and where they were at intellectually would be extremely far in advance, because they didn't have they had one less sense to focus on and to take away, because it's like
our eyes are actually the external part of our brain. Like our eyes
they're
are
connected, but
I see what you're saying. Like if they were advanced evolutionarily to the point to where they wouldn't need eyes to see, they have kind of like I was picturing not like anglerfish, but like other like deep ocean like creatures.
Similar to that, yeah. And I was the jack of all trades saying, you know, but a master of none is better than a master of one type thing, almost plays to effect. Just because if you're a jack of all trades, yes, you know a little bit about everything, but you're not a master. And when you come up against something that is a master of that, you're getting fucked. I say that word so much. I've realized how much I just say it. I'm like, every time, oh, okay, there's another one. But you're screwed. You're gonna lose, just because their level of knowledge surpass that. That's the whole point of mastery.
Right.
So I think it'd be similar to that. They wouldn't have.
If they came from the ocean, I don't think they would have languages we have, and I think they would have telepathic communication.
Right, and I don't think that we would be capable. We might be capable of some level of perception of a telepathic type thing, and I feel like different people are at different levels intellectually as far as that level of as perceiving that.
But not to that degree. Though,
but not
where that's
right,
the language itself.
Right, you might be able to hear something like some, and I'm not talking about somebody that's schizophrenic with auditory delusions, but somebody that really like maybe hears things, and you know they could hear full premonitions and visions just audibly and not see them or whatever. And it really be stuff that happens at some point or another. And I feel like that's a higher level of telepathy than we currently have. And I feel like we're evolving towards it because of our advances, but also because
I think
we're trying to find ways to survive. And
I think we were until something like the double-edged sword of computing technology came along. You know, because now we don't. Like, this is the uncommon thing, and like even more so now in the pandemic culture, which doesn't seem to be going away. It seems to it's going to be a thing.
Except for in the South. Hey.
Bless the Bible Belt for that one aspect where they're like, well, folks just need to be cautious. We don't need to get.
I got God. I don't need a mask. Got my faith. Thank you. I don't need shelter.
I have been able. I was at a small business in Nashville, Georgia, a couple days ago. I was talking with some of their how their business has been, and I got to sit them down and talk with them about problems with corporate fascism, and they're just like, well, "You're all right, feller." I'm like, "Yeah." Told them that like
I know what I'm talking about.
Well, I try to avoid a Walmart whenever I can.
Absolutely.
I try not to give them. I wish local grocers were still kind of a thing. I would support them more.
I go
so.
to the produce market whenever I can. For one, homegrown stuff, and I say homegrown, like smaller farm and locally grown produce, vegetables, and meat is so much bigger and better naturally. And some, like, depending on what it is, some things are smaller, but the amount of flavor, how long it stays good,
How you feel after you eat it. That's the big thing.
how it even looks better, and most of it is cheaper. Most of it is a lot cheaper, and a lot. It's that level of convenience, because you can go to Walmart. I used to say back in high school, you can go into Walmart and find anything you need for everything. You could literally, and they'd be like, what about a prostitute? I was like, I bet you could. You walk around long enough.
Certain
Hospital
time of the day, you'll get your knob work, sir. I wouldn't recommend it.
You couldn't get an IV in there. Yes, you could. You dang sure could find some.
That's coming. Walmart doctors, that's coming.
You could find the stuff in there to make a household IV in there. Simple. You could make anything you needed to survive or whatever in Walmart, and especially with how big and vast they're going now, you could literally live in a Walmart.
Yeah.
You have TVs. Some of them may probably even have mattresses. I don't live in a big ass city.
There's some cities that they're supposedly setting FEMA camps up at Walmart. Like, that's a little unnerving. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, it's
just that many people on one, because it's such a publicly went place to begin with, and then you're trying to set up a FEMA camp.
Yeah, well, like,
not to mention the other.
I haven't seen any data that has convinced me about outside spread or contamination of this sickness, right? From what I gather, it's mostly in commonly used indoor areas, right? I.e., Walmarts, supermarkets, like these places. So the fact that there's been sort of this stranglehold that's been put on small mom and pop businesses, not so much in the South, but like other places, like there's folks that are still waiting to be able to cut hair again. Like
in different states and whatnot. And I hear about that, and I love to listen to NPR.
National Pubic Radio.
Dude, gotta love the pubic hairs. Because I try and look for, when I read the news and watch the news, I try and look at all of the news networks, because all of them are lying to you. I know that I know everybody thinks it's only one, but I'm here to tell you Santa Claus is not real, and every single news source is trying to get you to
Can
believe.
you believe they watch Fox News? What a bunch of morons.
You mean you look at CNN and HLN? No. You mean you look at WALB and all the other ALBs? WLBs, whatever. I think that one, the A is for Albany, but whatever. We know where I'm heading with this. If they're trying to speak some facts to you, unless they have citable sources, they're lying.
Yeah.
And I mean citable as in justified, provable, factual, .org, possibly .nets.
Well,
EDUs, I'll say, depending on the school.
They've all essentially turned into public relations departments for their sponsored content. Right?
And that's it. And it used to be, stuck limited to newspaper back in the day, and then phone books, and then we just had, and the radio. And they were doing it back then, but the level that they're able to do it now is so easy to bombard. And they know that people are going to watch the news, and they know that older generations are going to watch the news. They know that younger generations are going to watch. Everyone watches the news in some way, form, or fashion. Everyone, because they want to feel informed. That's what you target. Target religion and target news. You can get whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, it's an empathy market, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one reason why so many people tend to have this zealotry with ideology nowadays, where that's just whatever narrative they subscribe to, they're just like, this is it, this is the truth,
can't be anything else, you're wrong, and I'll fight you for it. Let me get my rifle.
But like, whenever you can convince somebody like that, maybe it has to deal with like from experiencing like pathology of human beings, but you can manipulate somebody like that to then do what you want. So what if you want them to like a certain person, or buy a certain product, or vote a certain way, or support a certain cause? Once you have them ideologically like nodding along, you've sold them empathy. Mm-hmm. And then you can manipulate them however you want.
And a lot, like, people don't like it's a general thing not to want to believe that somebody's trying to manipulate you, but anybody that's trying to prove a point is trying to manipulate you, and they may not be doing it viciously or out of spite or doing it maliciously, but they're still trying to persuade you to believe their point. And the more that they can hone you in, whoever it is, whatever the point is, the more that they can hone in and have you believe that point, the stronger their background is going to be when they try and prove it to other people as well. But if you've got to share that community, then you've got to share the amount of listeners that you ultimately have as well.
Well, I think that's why, like, I don't want to change somebody's opinion on something. I want to change their mind. I want to change like how they operate.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you still do you believe whatever you want to believe, but when you can understand the perspective at minimum from someone else, and then you can see how their logic tree sort of forms mm-hmm. around that perspective, and then you can, even if you completely disagree with them ideologically, like, you should still like there's an opportunity to learn something,
right and that goes back to being whether or not you're open-minded or closed-minded on either side, really. Because if you're a closed-minded person trying to prove a point, it doesn't matter what evidence you're given. I 100% have been in that situation. It doesn't matter what evidence you prove them. Doesn't matter what, if it happened, if a situation happened and you're trying to tell them they did the situation. It doesn't matter if that happened 2 minutes ago. It didn't happen to them, so it didn't happen at all, regardless of the actual truth. Somebody like that, is that close-minded, their point of view is the only point of view, and they don't care about it. They don't care about the truth, regardless. I don't know. I just went off a tangent. I was just I don't even know where I'm just going with that, but yeah. Apparently, I still have some demons to work through.
Don't we all? I'll find that a lot though. Like I work out a lot of my ideas vocally. Mm-hmm. It goes back to like talking with oneself, or so. Yeah, sometimes words will pour out, and like sometimes it'll be like something that I was like trying to construct. I'm like yeah, that's exactly like it. And other times I'll come out and be like, why was I giving this power, essentially?
Right. And there's more space when you use your words, because you're letting them flow out, and your head is very constricted. I know it's all a mental thing, but literally it's just one little tiny noggin, one nugget, whatever.
Yeah. Like I said, you got to open that faucet.
Mm-hmm.
But the news outlets and folks like this are so set on their worldview. It takes a long time to sort of figure out who you are for a lot of people.
Right.
Like you and I both kind of had bold personalities, and childhood trauma we've deflected into humor, which is a good way to manage your way through the world, because it beats the shit out of like raging or crying yourself into a rage,
or being dependent upon a substance, whatever the substance may be. Different strokes for different folks, but that's me and you both chose humor because we were dealt, real life cards. I won't say shitty cards, but we were dealt real life cards, because shit happens in real life and it sucks.
Yeah, and you're still here. Right.
Right. And so you, like, there's only so much that you can change, so much that you can alter. So you gotta either look at the funny. You can't always look at the positive, because that's just impossible. We're not Mary Poppins. But you can look at the funny side of things and feel a little bit more lighthearted about it, or you can dwell on it. And what does dwelling do? It brings out the negative side, and then eventually you get buried in negativity, and then eventually you explode. It's science.
Yeah, I've kind of always been like a rather firm believer that I gotta, like, life is gonna deal me shitty things, so I might as well try to seize happiness when it's readily available, because it's not always going to be readily available, but when it is, choose to be happy if you can.
Right. You can find the positive out of a shitty situation, and just make it a little bit better, and then just move on.
But like a lot of folks aren't, it doesn't come as easy to them,
Right, they're not as inept.
Right, so but
I think I used that word right.
Well, inept, if they have an ineptitude, it means they can't.
They are inept. Yeah, they are inept.
As
not
adept.
There we go. I got
you.
My English.
I got you, bro.
My English teacher tells me to refrain from using words that have similar meaning where you don't know the exact definition, and I'm just like,
you're doing pretty well if you're still taking English classes, though.
Well, I figured learning the second language would be easy, but I hate it.
Animal grunts are so much more convenient. But for like those people that I guess are a little more reserved or timid, for them, whenever all of a sudden you bring something that sort of pulls one of the legs out from the table, they're resting their ideas on.
They don't know what to do.
No, and
freeze up like a possum.
Well, normally what happens is, like, the mockery will happen, where
that's a big one.
Where you go back to that person that's just like memory banking all this data, it's just like oh, you buffoon! Look, I've got all of this information at hand.
Look at this crayon graph I drew. That makes me think.
Did you bring a graph to a show, dude?
It's a pie chart. It's a pie chart on a real pie.
Timothy, are you bringing your data with you again? Look, babe, I know someone's gonna be there that's gonna try to fuck with us, alright? The pie chart's a necessity. It's either this or the gun. What do you want to do, babe? Pie chart. That's what I thought!
Still brings a tiny little pocket knife. The whole pocket knife is literally an inch long. The whole knife.
He's overcompensating for something.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all? I just pretend I have a big penis.
So do I. That zoom feature on the dick pics, that's where it really comes in handy.
I use the fisheye. Just gotta angle it right.
Your dick about to explode? It's just got this like big fucking
No, bro, I'm just hard. Are you sure I can see the bend? Yeah, bro.
The background, like this is like pictures on the wall. It's just like warped all of a sudden. You see that blue filter? I would put a filter on it, man. That's a real deal.
See the timestamp? It's from 2 weeks ago.
It was a good day.
I just took it. Bro, I haven't saved this. I don't send this to anybody else. You're the only one.
You ever heard of metadata before, Greg?
Let's pull this into the computer real quick. Oh.
I almost cried on that one too. Fish-eyed penises. Okay, well, just imagine a regular penis with a fish eyeball. I'm telling that one to leave.
When it gets erect, it rolls over white. Like a shark. Yeah.
How would it spit? That'd be weird. It just starts blinking and tears come out. Oh my gosh. Why is my mind going there? It's a short film. It's rolling.
Someone should animate this.
I could-
That way you see like
If somebody could...
a couple goes back to like her apartment or whatnot, and
Oh my god. And it gets heated. They're on the couch. It gets heated. Pants are off. They're going to the room, and then the boxers come down.
and she sees
She's going down to give him a little kiss, and then all of a sudden, it flips over white. Oh, I just made a short horror film.
He gets scared for a moment because he thinks she's going to retreat. She says, "Stop." Pulls her skirt down, and she's got a fishbowl vulva.
Oh, yes.
It's even got gravel in it and
yes.
a little castle.
Right, you can, if it moves every time the stroke happens, there's a jostling, so you can hear the rocks move.
Ironically, he ejaculates fish food.
He's tickled by a leaf of a plastic plant.
That's her cervix.
I think, is there a category on Pornhub for this yet? Can we just
We
go
can
into business?
make one. We can
All
make
right.
one.
Let's just. This is trademarked already. Nobody can steal it. Somebody's over there like, yes. Oh, keep going.
Somebody's probably like jacking off to it like right now. They're like,
really?
oh fuck yeah!
This is when I get real close. Did you like that, Zaddy? This is close enough for you.
That'll be the soundbite.
Can you feel the chlorine? Just kidding. Fish can't have chlorine. Don't give your fish chlorine.
I think that's how like STIs would work with fish genitals.
It would have to. Or that's how you'd get rid of them.
Yeah, you go to see your.
Speaking of fish water, I need to use the fish.
Sure. And we're back.
Fresh water.
From fish water to fresh water.
Yeah.
Bringing you all the good tunes and conversation. Live. Not live, but alive.
Are we alive? We might not be alive. One can only hope.
It's like one of the first few times I had ever gotten like too stoned for my own good. I think I was like 19.
Oh, I used to
Yeah.
love and hate that. I hated it when it happened, but loved it afterwards.
We're in a bathroom. There's like 7 of us in a bathroom, and I'm just sitting there on the edge of the tub, hitting the blunts as they go around, and the idea comes to like whenever you die, you see your whole life flash before your eyes, right? Mm-hmm. And then it occurs to me, this is now. They're like, I'm in the flash, and I have this like little panic attack, like internally, externally, I'm just I'm just
right.
You're just stoned. Sitting in a bathroom.
You're a stone monument right now. You're a stoned monument. Internally, you're liquid.
Yeah, but
Literally too. You're liquid.
yeah, it had I think that was like the first time like I still remember like the exact panic, and even like how like bright my eyes like felt like lit up whenever it occurred to me that like even, I don't know if that's true or not, but just like I felt it like in that like paranoia,
Right.
that just like oh no, there is no flash, you're in the flash.
Right, like your whole life, and that's one. I love those memes. I mean, it hits blunt. But that's right, because when you're thinking about it, because you always relive your memories. So you're constantly reliving your life. Constantly. Because even if you try to block out memories, that's the whole... You're trying to block out memories because they keep impeding their way. They're stampeding right in there and hammering their way into your brain. And as you're living your life, you're seeing it. So at any moment in time, your whole life is flashed before your eyes up until that moment. And sometimes even if you like near-death experiences, I've read some accounts or whatnot, and of course you have to take them with a grain of salt. People like to fabricate.
Right.
It's human nature, but a good story is a good story. But some accounts have they see. It's not necessarily they see what's around them and they're up and floating. They see the future of their life or whatnot, and like that they actually get a family, and that they may not know the faces because they're blurred and whatnot because they haven't seen them yet or stuff like that. But that's why they're having that moment flash before their eyes, because it's a near-death experience. But I fully believe in those, and I agree with your high thought that your whole life is flashing before your eyes, right? Current. There's nothing you can do to stop it.
Yeah.
Go to sleep. That's it. What are you gonna do? Go to sleep forever? I think that's called dying.
I've had other moments through psychedelia that had because I mean, pot's kind of a psychedelic, but I mean mild. It's the most mild, and only if you take it. If you take it, you eat it like an edible. Like it has it's like a psychedelic. That's like 5 hours.
I've consumed multiple variations of ways to consume weed that I've tried. And you can have but I like you're saying, it's very mild, and it's more so like if you microdose, if you microdose acid, or sometimes ecstasy. Ecstasy is just a lot more harsh and artificial in my opinion. So it's got the addictive qualities that LSD doesn't have. The same. It can still be addictive if used, whatever. But microdosing on LSD and sometimes even shrooms and ecstasy, it's just enlightening. Your whole aura just feels better, and I think that's very, very, very similar.
Mm-hmm. There was, I've talked about it, I think before on the show, but there was a few years ago, I was on psychedelics up at the wake compound and almost ended up drowning, not from psychedelics, but just from like doing something stupid and forgetting to like roll on my back when I wasn't wearing a life vest or whatnot, and like I start like sinking and taking on water while I'm like full on like tripping. I'm just like, oh my god, like, and I saw everything. I saw them pull my body out of the water. I saw like the ripple effect of that, and then I heard a voice pop in my head that just said, roll on your back. I was like, oh my god, duh. Like, right. But like it was absolutely like nightmarish, and like I had numerous psychedelic experiences up to this point, so like all the panic and normal stuff that like people are prone to, like I think like I was seasoned at this point, like I was good to go. But like the realism of like that what setting had just in, and then like seeing like oh my god, like what if I like not only like what if I died, like game over, and like how would that affect like my family, my loved ones, and whatnot. That ripple effect. But then like for them to argue that like I was on quote unquote drugs, when it's like fuck man, like that was the last thing I would want to would be a casualty for a cause
for an accidental overdose. Which is what it would be considered, isn't that so fucked?
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
He took too many mushrooms and thought he could swim like
he accidentally
too far.
Drowned when he was tripping on mushrooms. So we're gonna call it an accidental suicide or an accidental overdose by suicide.
Yeah.
Or an accidental suicide by overdose.
Yeah. So like with me, like, you know, like I found God and spirituality through like these archaic rituals of psychedelia, So like,
which has been and that's been historically, that's what people have used.
Oh yeah,
to enlighten themselves. That's
until the 20th century.
From the start of time, it has been written down in every history, in every culture that you look at. It has been written down in some way, form, or fashion that they're tripping on something.
Yeah,
and Christians too. Look at angels. Well, I stutter and make all the mouth movements that I know of. Think of angels and what they're actually depicted to look like. And ogres are real. I think all of mythology is real. They're just depicted differently. But they're described. And if you want to believe the Bible, I don't. It was written by a human. You think I'm going to believe that shit is a nonfiction when all of it is sexist bullshit mostly? Not only sexist, but sexist, straight bullshit. The Bible's fake.
I don't subscribe to a historical Bible. I think that the Bible, like other holy books, they're special because they survived.
Yes,
right?
It should be looked at as a loose guide, like a loose translation, if not a fiction. It should be cherished. It is the sacred piece of literature and work of art. However, you should not be trying to take it. You should not be trying to take it so literally. You should not be trying to look at it as a guide to live your life. It is accounts, if you want to take them honestly as they're written by other people. Accounts.
Yeah. Besides, they had councils where they decided what books would go in, what would be said in the books, and then you have all these translations where they're like, well, they didn't get the right translation, so we did, however.
Right, because it was such a private affair to be able to read a Bible. Or to be able to read the books. To
even have a book.
Yeah, and there's multiple books that in the variations of the Bible that we have printed and handed out today, and even the older versions, unless you're looking at the untranscribed Hebrew versions, you don't have all of the text.
No.
And you still don't even have all of them because some of them are destroyed.
Yeah. Or they're in the Vatican catacombs, or they're like, oh, we have all of our scrolls, you would figure if they're holy documents and important, the world would want to have them, but no, it seems that God actually only wants for certain hierarchical organizations to have them.
It makes me think of museums and stuff. Because I love museums. I think we should have more museums. I want to go to the Smithsonian. Side note on that, I would love to. But museums are there so that you can see and appreciate the past and still be able to experience it. You can not only learn about it, but get a taste of it, rather than it being locked away for it to be questioned about. And why are you scared for it to be looked at? Why are you scared for people to see it? What are you hiding? That's my big question. After being traumatized and dating terrible people because I have shitty choices, I'm trying.
It happens.
And all that. I don't trust anything. Nothing is real. The realest thing I've ever seen has been Alice in Wonderland. Just kidding. But I mean, nothing is up is down and down is up, and everything is topsy-turvy.
Yeah.
In my opinion. You could face value. Everything is face value.
Well, all the notions of modern day science, like the money and the ideas that founds it, a lot of it all leads back to Rome. It leads back to the Vatican. So Big Bang cosmology, that was a priest that theorized it. These notions of atheism that span from atheism is also a religion.
And people fight that so much. I just don't engage because I'm not going to waste my breath, which I find valuable, on a smooth brain. I've got money to make. I've got people to make feel better. I've got errands to run. Is this on my checklist today? Talking to an idiot? No. Okay.
A lot of those folks, they just want validation for themselves.
That's a lot of what it is, and I don't have time for that. Like I'll validate myself with myself.
I usually act those out in the shower when I have my little make-believe fight time. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where I'm just like, yeah, you can't talk to me that way.
Yeah, because it's a personal thing, and so many men are meld personal and outside, and I have to work on it. I mean, I still work on it because it's easy to do, but it goes with if you're selfish or not. I feel like the more selfish you are, the more validation you need, or you feel like you're entitled to. And the more, and it's not whether or not you find yourself selfish or selfless or, compassionate or caring. It's whether or not your actions relate that. Because you can say one thing all day long. People do it all the time. Look at policemen. Look at drug addicts. Like, people say it all the time. It's what you choose to do. It's whether or not, are you going to give that homeless man, which is homeless, that's been on the street and has been picking up, little bits of cigarette butts because he has a cigarette addiction from his parents from an early childhood because they were, chain smokers. Are you going to give him $2 for a pack of cigarettes, or ask him what pack of cigarettes he smokes and get him his favorite pack and then get him a jug of water? Or are you going to walk by and think, man, that guy should get a job? Are you going to see someone with their kid and, help them if they've got like a full buggy and you're at the store because you can and you're going in? Or are you going to pass them and be like, oh man, fucking kids. I hate kids, Which also, side note, you shouldn't bring your kids to the store, first of all. Like, and I mean that. I have a child and I have a full family that I shop for, and we love to do shit together. But shopping, doing errands like that, do by yourself. If you can find time to do it by yourself, you can do it. You have people that you can depend on for that. There is at least one person, and if you are doing it all by yourself, I commend you. That's the only exception. But anyway, that's those types of people. I totally, damn it. Yep. I lost point because I started talking about good people and bad people.
The only time I've ever been rude to somebody that I don't know what the PC term is, but they were, do not jump up there. We're asking, panhandling, whatever you want to label it as, was this guy was their young guy. He's probably like my age, right? And it's like a hot summer day by like Walmart, and he's got his kids out there with him, and his baby mama, she's like waving to people and whatnot, like getting that like that emotional,
that sympathy thing.
So
sympathy card.
I brought him over to like the driver's side and handed him a 20, and then when he grabbed it, I kind of grabbed a hold of his hand. I was like, let me tell you something. I was like, you can come out here all you want. I was like, if I come back out here and I see you with those kids on the corner again doing this, like, we're gonna have a problem. I was like, you don't bring like your kids to do this.
They don't have the type of survival instinct. They don't have their physical bodies aren't built up enough. Their mental capabilities aren't built up enough.
Not even that. Like, what happens
those.
if like cops come by and like arrest like him for like
loitering?
Yeah.
Because some business owners are like that, especially if it's a conglomerate.
Yeah. So like then what? Like, their kids now have this imprinted on them, seeing their father arrested and or their mother arrested as well. So there's a litany of things
absolutely
that go with it. But he knew that I meant it when I told him because I'm like I want to help you, but like this is wrong.
This is
aside from bad news, what it'll lead to, it's just it's wrong. Like to subject kids to like this, like to doing that.
Yeah, you really shouldn't. And speaking from personal experience, I mean, my parents had no choice in the matter. But like when we were growing up, there was a stint where we were homeless. We were living out of our car, and there was 3 children and a baby and my parents. And I remember specifically one evening where we stayed in a motel room, and the way it is, they take however many people you have and give you beds based off of that.
Right.
And they won't do anything less. Like, they won't give you a single bedroom, single bed if you have 3 kids and an infant and 2 adults.
They're going to capitalize on it.
Exactly. And they don't care. So, like, what my parents used to do is they would go in, send one of them in, and the other would take the car and park it in the back where there wasn't any street lights or where it was dark, and they would get a single hotel room with a bed and say that they had a small child, so they would get a cot, because they didn't send out mattresses back then, it's just a simple cot.
Right.
And then us kids would have to sneak into the hotel room for that night if we wanted to be able to sleep. And that's what we had to do. And again, like, I'm glad that I had to go, or I'm glad that I had to go and deal with that type of situation and not somebody else.
Yeah.
But that's the type of situation that no kid should have to endure. No kid should have to go hungry. No kid should have to go without education and proper shelter at all. Never. And it sucks that, unfortunately, there are multiple families worth of children that do every single day.
Yeah.
Every single day. And others don't care about it. Others are just like, it's just a kid. It's just a waste of space. Kill it.
Well, nobody ever thinks that something bad can happen to them. You know what I mean?
Right, until it happens to them.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, why did this happen to me?
Well, sometimes it's something you don't even control. You know what I mean? Like, I came home whenever my house burned down. I was living in New Jersey at the time, and I came back home. I was at home an hour before it all happened. There was a very small window where this person deliberately like made an explosion in the living room, and like from like that, and like I can't even watch like stuff on like Hurricane Katrina and people losing their homes anymore, because I'll just turn to a bawling mess.
Right, because it's so close to you. It's so real.
Yeah.
It happened.
Yeah.
You were there, not in that particular instance, but you were there.
But I mean, stuff like that, like even like traumatic stuff as an adult, like it's a blessing in disguise. You know what I mean?
Right, and you have to learn from it. You have to take from it, and it's what you take from it, what you learn from it, or how you learn from it. Which is why I think that further gives me belief in my reincarnation theory, is because like lessons like those are so large, and so they're unique to the individual, but as a whole, it is so unified that it's just like that. How does it not make sense if we were just a little bit more pleasant? Or if we tried a little bit, not because we can't always try and like stuff work, but if we tried a little bit harder to look at the positives, or how a situation could have helped us, rather than it's just shitting on us for the fuck of it.
Right.
That those lessons are just, I can't grasp them not being connected somehow.
Well, they're almost in a way bigger than life itself.
Right. They surpass the mortality.
Right. Because I mean, think about it, like a meaning of life is, in a way, it may not set limitations as far as like you can deviate from it or not, but like it sets like you were talking about earlier, like a path to ascension, right? Mm-hmm. So like reincarnation does make sense to me, as far as like you can get to a certain point, like you said, like if you didn't find a way to get out, right? Or you choose to come back and like go through it again, but your circumstances, what if they did depend on like what you did previously? And that this whole notion of like, well, why is there grief in the world and chaos and order and all these things? It's because this is where chaos meets order, like in the universe, you know?
Exactly.
And a way to like ascend and get out of it, like the ancients, they referred to them as octaves, right? That as above, so below. Mm-hmm. This notion of 7 discs, more or less, that make up. So I guess as far as Earth would be concerned, it's part of the Kabbalistic tree as well. But as Earth is concerned, it would be how the atmospheres, or I guess with using a solar system, it would be their orbits around the sun. So you would have, like, the closest view from us would be the sun and the moon. Then you have Mercury, Venus, and you have the asteroid belt, and like all of this sort of like ripples out into space and whatnot from around the sun, and they all follow the sun. But you, with a reincarnation, that you would have to find a way to ascend or descend, and that's how you get out of the Earth matrix and into another octave. So I doubt you would probably want to descend, and then but some people might. They may want to be high nobles of a lower octave as far as consciousness or dimensions go, or even subjugate themselves. Like the idea of selling your soul. Like I think that has more validity to it than just a cheap write-off.
That's kind of how, like, I view, like, the devil or whatnot. I feel like the devil is real, but not so much in the sense that is commonly believed. It's more so that the devil is whatever is baiting you. It's what's nipping at your heels. Otherwise, and it would be varying, but I mean, otherwise, how else are you going to know what to learn from? Like, one doesn't, when you're in school, one doesn't know what lesson to start from unless it's organized in like a book or a set plan.
Right.
We just don't know that plan, and that plan unfolds to us, and I feel like that's how the reincarnation kind of is to us. It unfolds to us as we get done with whatever mortal life we're in, and it's that sentient being that holds all of the collective lessons and that remembers everything, kind of like a monk. And then the devil, quote unquote, and it would be a god, but it wouldn't be like the god for above and below, but that's what kind of is the teacher, so to speak, of the lesson.
Right. So I would think that there would be a difference between like whatever the original creator, like the original programmer would be, and all of these lesser gods, demigods, egg planets, what things that we can't really perceive, but they're conscious beings. You know what I mean? Like Earth is conscious to a certain degree.
Absolutely.
But that it's when you get outside of this plane, this dimension, magnetism starts to take place. So then you have a dyad, the from whatever's down below the monad, oneness, unity, God. You would have duality, right?
Right.
And then from that you have the tetrad or the tetrahedron or the tetragrammaton.
It would just keep splitting.
Right. But I imagine that if Earth is this this plane of like trials, right? Like it's a video game where essentially you have to earn your way out one way or the other. Then I would figure that if you ascend and can get out, then everything higher would be things that we consider to be more divine, higher consciousness, compassion, love, kindness, beauty, like music, art, all of these things. And the lower end of it would tend to be the antithesis of that. So personally, I would, if this notion that the ancients believed in, with like this sort of wash cycle of souls that we're in,
which I mean it strings together so nicely. Like it connects a lot of dots that are otherwise still left in mystery, shrouded in mystery.
Right.
But that would give. I think that would mean. I think that's hard. That would be a hard thing for a lot to grasp, simply because it means that there is a set control. And if it's one thing people don't like, it's to be controlled. They lost control.
They did.
We just witnessed an execution of a whole family.
Fuck. It's like 18 rounds.
That was a lot. That was. I was gonna say, was that a pistol? Like
That's what I thought at first because there were 6 shots.
right, and I was like, and then unless they had another clip ready, but that was still 2. I didn't count exactly, but that was a lot of shots in a pretty rapid.
Succession.
Yeah.
Succession.
That's the word I was looking for. I just wanted to be. I didn't want to say the wrong word again and be like, oh.
That is a bit odd.
There was a squirrel.
I get it. Y'all watch. Oh, God.
Martha, get me my beer.
And my squirrel gun. Let's bring the extra clip. He's a quickin'.
No, I'm talking about the gold-plated one, please. Oh. I do believe everybody should have the right to own a gun, though, speaking of. Maybe they're shooting mosquitoes.
Shit. I don't think it's firecrackers.
That doesn't.
Because those shots sounded further away.
That sounds a little too voluptuous for firecrackers to me, but also
Too much body on the tops.
Yeah, because that reverb, you know, there's that little bit of an echo that it draws with it, and it's irregular. That's a little bit more consistent, but
Yeah.
but it's very irregular.
Yeah. Huh. It's not unusual.
Let's go hunting. Let's just go out. We'll take the mic with us. We'll keep recording. And we can put on orange if you want. Otherwise, let's just go. I'm in all black, so I have a hood. Let's get shot.
I may need to put on some proper boots. Said my
these
my vagabond business attire.
These wonderful tennis shoes will not get wet at all through their mesh fabric top. So let's go. I hope there's mud. It's trees and dirt. I hope there's mud. With all this rain.
I think your wish will come true.
Really?
I do.
Okay.
Call me blindly optimistic.
I'll be back. It's my opportunity.
I know there is probably about half a mile back yonder. There's an open farm.
Mm-hmm.
But because normally, unless just because.
That's a gun.
Oh yeah. That ain't a firecracker.
That's a pretty.
It may be coming from over there. It's just the echo.
It's possible.
I don't think
Woods
so.
like to play tricks on you. I love the woods. I love the country. But the woods are scary.
They're very scary.
Woods is scary. Oh no. And I fully believe in ghosts or like benevolent and malicious spirits and stuff that'll try and hurt you, and it's all about. I think there are a lot of variables, but how many doors you've opened, for one, and for two, like what type of energy you possess. But weird shit has always happened to me, and like when I was a little kid, I used to get night terrors, and I got night terrors after my mother passed too. But
Do you need any more coffee?
yes, please. But when I was a kid, like before pre-K, we were living in Norman Park, and when I would get scared and have night terrors, I would sleep in my parents' room, and I was sleeping in there one evening, and they were asleep, and I remember distinctively, and it's still so vivid in my mind. I woke up. Something woke me up. My parents were sound asleep, and thank you. And I saw, you could see like the green dot from the fire alarm. But there were 2 red eyeballs just like staring at me from the corner of the room. And it was the meanest intention that I could ever describe. And I've received a lot of like negative intentions. But
Hair just stood up.
but those red eyes, and it was like they weren't like eyeballs, but it was 2 deeply red dots, and the truest red, not like burgundy red or blood red or bright red, but just true red that I have ever seen. To this day, I've not seen a more true red. And they were there, and I blinked, and I was so awake. I think I was like paralyzed in my spot because I don't remember being able to move. But I remember crying because of it. I think I woke my parents up from crying because I saw those lights, and they didn't believe me. They told me there was nothing there. But like I was staring at them, and I could not go back to sleep, and they would not stop staring at me. And it was and there have been other like odd occurrences, but that has been one instance that still haunts me. Every time I go to bed, I look in the corner of the room for red eyes, and I'm just waiting for them to come back. It sounds like a lead-in on something, but that's it. I'm just waiting for the red eyes to come back.
One of my kookier beliefs is I believe the moon creates its own light. I don't believe the light reflected from the sun theory is accurate. I believe that we have enough data that shows, aside from how animals act, but there are certain plants and fungi that only react to lunar light.
Which is, yeah.
So if
it were a reflection from the sun, there would be some. It may not be the same amount, but there would be some reaction from solar light.
Yeah, like at least to be able to for plants to photosynthesize,
Right.
Aside from that, moonlight is cold. Like the light is cold. It's not warm. It's cold light. So I would imagine then if the moon is producing its own light, again, I'm no scientician, but if it is, then reality is different in its light, right? We all react differently in a full moon, than we do on a new moon. So like whatever frequencies it's giving off would affect our reality as well. It affects animals differently, plants and fungus.
And it really does. Absolutely. Dogs react, especially wild dogs. Domesticated dogs and I feel like domesticated animals are a lot it's been proven they're a lot less sensitive to outside occurrences and interferences because they've been dumbed down, just like people. Monkey
Totally.
see, monkey do.
Yeah.
But animals have that heightened sensitivity to everything, to light, sound at different degrees. But the moon the moon affects the waves differently, and the currents of the ocean and water. Absolutely, I could get behind that.
There was an article I read where it was some consortium of scientists that were trying to argue that it makes a lot more sense using modern technology if we assume the moon is smaller and within our own atmosphere. Like within the ionosphere, I think that's the outermost level. Like if it's within there, they say that makes a lot more sense because it looks closer, it's affecting the tides a lot more. than it would be if it were like 732,000 miles away and much
and
larger.
Not to mention the gravitational pull variation, the differences in those two distances is great. Like, it's not just a small amount of difference. And the moon is a pretty massive entity all by itself. If the moon, I can see that, I believe that, because if the moon were fully out on our outermost levels of the atmosphere, it's too big for it not to pull away on its own, the way space does. Because I mean, that's how meteors happen and everything else,
right?
And how they initially get pulled in anyway, the more mass that they have. So it would either have been pulled in further because it's so big, or it would have been pulled out because it's so big if it's on the outermost realm.
Yeah, well, if it's past the Van Allen radiation belt, which, that's one of my bigger gripes I have with the Apollo stuff, is that they say that they were able to go through it, but now they're actually not able to go through it.
Right, and
so you were able, in 6 years, they had this window of opportunity, and then that was it. Then we can't go back to the moon.
Yeah, and that was how many years ago? And you want to say that we have computers that we can hold in our hand, and we can't do what that we could do when? I need to see your sources.
But I would think that, like, some of these more phenomenal parts of reality, like in particular with kids, because kids, aside from, not to get too mystical, but their aura that they have around them, like, kids' bandwidths of perception are different,
Yes.
like our hearing from the moment we're born starts just deteriorating. So kids can hear things in a lot lower frequencies than adults can hear. Normally around like 60 or 70 hertz, unless we have a subwoofer, we're not going to really perceive that sound too much anymore.
And that gives a whole new meaning to, like, imaginary friends.
Yeah.
And I've read accounts, which, again, take them with a grain of salt. Everybody loves a good story. But I've read accounts where, and my partner has told me of accounts that he's read where people have had imaginary friends that their children now have, and that have referenced them and say that I miss you, or this woman had a miscarriage and then she had a child, and that child's best friend was the woman's first miscarriage. Like that, I wholeheartedly, you will not ever change my mind, believe in that type of stuff. That, like, who's to say? Because you really don't know. And that goes back.
It may not even be that entity, but it may be something malicious, just using a name.
And because the mental walls are not as strong as we think they are. So I hate to break it to the person that thinks that they are untouchable, but no, boo, no. I bet you spending 1 week with you, somebody has got you on lock and key, and they've got you wrapped around their finger. It's human nature, I think, for us to toy with other people and other things just to see if we can. It's whether it's your control on that, which helps develop what type of person you are. But there's no way. But with our mental walls being as weak as they are, and other things having higher sensitivity to everything, and the way that if you watch animals react, you're telling me that some of the smartest creatures that we have, hunters and everything else, best hunters that we have, are reacting to movements in the wind because it's just the wind, when they can, like, I don't believe that. I can't believe that because they're too smart.
Yeah,
there's too much brain power in there. Engine's too good.
Well, like, we're not equipped for the nighttime anyway.
No.
You know what I mean? Like we are,
unless you're fully colorblind. Because then everything is a shade of gray. So the light, so literally the light sensitivity doesn't play the same effects. Right. Which I say that because my father is like 90% or 95% colorblind. He can only see like this tin you have on there, that bright red, he could see that as a very dull orange, like this candle. That's it. Everything else is gray.
That's wild.
Variations of gray. Yeah, and he is like, but it helped me in the military because I could see rather well at nighttime because my eyes adjusted in the blink of an eye. But we as a species have the worst eyesight. Not the worst, but it's pretty low on that spectrum. It's pretty down there. We're on the low end of these schools here. We need to take after some owls.
I had somebody ask me once if I ever dreamed in color. I was like, what do you mean? Like, well, like dreams are black and white, but like every now and then I'll have a color dream. I was like, I've never dreamt in black and white, like ever.
I feel like I've been asked that, or I feel like I've heard that before, because I've thought about, or maybe I've just thought about it, because that's something that's crossed my mind, and I don't think I've ever dreamed in black and white.
Not once. I found myself.
I'll think about it and remember it in black and white because I'm talking about it. But other than that, I'm like, no, because do I add color? No, they're colored.
My color's always there. I had found myself lucidly dreaming once and being like, I wonder if I can make it black and white. But even then it was hard for me. Like, it was, everything I saw was glittering, kind of like Technicolor on a
right,
TV.
Because everything you see is art. Everything is colored.
Yeah.
Regardless of if you blur it or not, you see in color unless you're colorblind.
Have you ever dream and you feel a controller in your hand?
Not a controller, but I've been dreaming and felt like I've done it with driving. I've literally felt the steering wheel in my hand and felt like I was gripping it, and like my foot was on the gas pedal or the brake, and like manipulating the pedals, and then like woke up in a flash because I felt I was gonna crash. I've done that, but not a controller.
It doesn't happen too often, but I've had dreams before where like whatever's going on in the dream, and then I feel my real quote unquote hands holding the controller and moving me. Like I feel myself like hitting the B button or something.
That's not far off. I mean, because the steering wheel is a type of controller, just for a different software system.
But it was
different hardware.
But it was outside the dream itself. Like I felt like Goro from like Mortal Kombat, like with 4 arms or something. But like that was weird. Sometimes in dreams where I will have like a car involved with it, sometimes the car will just sort of disintegrate, and there I am moving, but it's just the steering wheel and the seat I'm on and a pedal floating. And then I'll be like, well, why don't I just walk? And then I'm walking, holding a steering wheel.
Yeah, I've done that. And then I'll be like, I want to run. I need to run because there's usually something chasing me. Most of my dreams involve me being chased, which somebody tell me what that means. No, dreams apparently do mean something, but I think that depends on how. Right. I try.
I didn't want to vocalize that on that.
But dreams are weird because they'll make you feel like something, and it's said that there's a lot of meaning behind dreams. I don't know. I'm smooth brain. I don't know. There could be, but I wouldn't say that every dream is like deeply meaningful. Yeah. Maybe it's just you're working out your problems of the day and your stress of tomorrow. Absolutely. But a lot of my dreams, like the ones that I remember, a lot of them I will be chased, or I have a few reoccurring nightmares. One of them I can't even explain. I don't even know how, so I won't. It's just I get so scared to even think about it. I'm like, ugh. But another one that I have, and I've had it a few times as an adult, but the scenario, it's funny, but I was so scared of it. I like terrified. It's funny because it's in the setting of Scooby-Doo. In the CD-ROM game of the saloon and their Wild West or whatever. If you've played it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But it's just so, and that gives way to how old I really am, as a,
CD-ROM
60 years
games.
old. Yeah. No, I remember my most fun video game as a child was a floppy disk game.
You have to say it in that exact manner.
Yes. Because I still cannot remember for the life of me the name of that game. I also remember playing a PC game about aliens, and I can't remember that one either. But this one was a green and black game. Like a green and gray. It wasn't black. It was like a dark gray, green-gray, about a worm. And it was a semi-educational game, and it's not Earthworm Jim. It's not.
He wasn't around yet for the floppy disk.
He was.
Was he?
Mm-hmm. That's how he started, Earthworm Jim. I know. Yeah, I've looked so many times trying to find this game because I want to play it again. And I want to be like, this is
it just called Worms?
I don't know. But the whole premise of the game is there's this little worm inching by or whatever, and there's games, and it's like a pseudo-educational because you try and like complete like one of these mini challenges is I'm trying to get apples to create words. And it's like a spelling game, but that's it. But I can see myself clearly playing it and manipulating the keys, but I can't remember anything else, and it torments me to this day. Now I'm just thinking about that damn game. Fuck.
So what about the saloon?
Damn it, that's it. My nightmare. Thank you. I knew it would come. I knew we would get back there, but every time I talk about that game, I get lost in it. But my nightmare, my reoccurring nightmare, is based off of this Scooby-Doo CD-ROM game, where they're going to this Wild West area, kind of like those towns you travel to, where they're set up.
Like Frontier Days or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, and there's a term, and I'm thinking of resurrection, but it's not it. Reenactment. Resurrection and reenactment are nowhere near. Anyway, the reenactment...
You're good.
5 seconds. The reenactment cities. And that's where they went. And that's my nightmare. And I'm running through, and there's a dog like Scooby-Doo in it or whatever. But we're running through, and there's these bad guys chasing me, and everybody dies, and like Shaggy gets decapitated. And Shaggy is somebody that's important to me because I start crying. I am bawling, and then like I'm trying to run away, and I can never run away fast enough. And you know how when you run in dreams, you're running in quicksand. You literally can't. And then everything else like freezes. And then it turns, that's the only time where it vividly turns to like a toned down, grayish, black and white color tone. The entire environment, except for me and the team. And Scooby-Doo's like there, and Shaggy's back there, still standing up, decapitated. And the bad guy is just coming up, like running through, and I am so scared. And I always wake up right before he gets to me. But it scares me so bad, and I have no idea why. And I wake up because I'm dry heaving because I was crying in my dream and there's nothing, and I'm like, and my eyes hurt because I've been like squinching them shut. It's ridiculous. And I don't even know what it means. But to this day, I haven't had it recently, but I have in the past 5 years, I have had that nightmare. I don't know why. It just occurs. It's just, let me pop in. Let me say it.
Wonder if it's like, something like your conscious or unconscious mind is trying to manifest a reality, right? That I guess it's dark to you, or like somewhere in your repressed mind,
There's gotta be. I have some repressed memories. I keep them repressed. That's probably one of them that I don't know. It's a good coping tactic. It's don't do it. I was not serious. I don't know. You can see me, but it's not healthy.
I will sometimes like find myself like in a dream wherein like my environment will all of a sudden change and it'll come up like a motif of something that I'm familiar with in a nightmare, right? Mm-hmm. So like one of them is like I'll be in a house and I'm like walking through a door trying to leave, and I open it up and it's still inside the house, but there's another house that's nested inside, and then I'll like turn around and like there's nothing back there like where I can leave. It's like, oh, I have to go into this house then.
I've had a dream like that when I lived on 4th Street Southwest. Like, specifically. And I would, by the end of it, in that particular dream, because I had that one a couple times too, but never after we left that house. But I also thought that house was haunted. Anyway, oh God, I heard people talking to me in that house. Anyway, but on those nightmares, my family was being murdered. Like I would be trying to leave the house because, sometimes I would be able to leave and start running down the street, and I would always wind up back in the house. And my family was murdered, and I was trying to scream out, and Amy, my little sister, was the only one left, and she was being attacked. Same scenario, waking up. But every time I would leave the house, I would try to leave the house, it would become the house again, or I would get just out of the yard into the second yard, trying to run up the street, and I would try and run in mud, and then it would stop, and I would be right back in the house. It's ridiculous. Like I said, it never happened after I left the house.
It is interesting about that. Your house sort of influencing your dreams, and your waking state as well. But like, there was one house that I lived in 5 or 6 years, like pretty much high school, middle school, and just weird stuff always happened in the house. Like there was this thing that looked like a woman. That it wasn't a woman, but she would run up and down the staircase like hummingbird speed. When you got to the top of the staircase, it didn't tee off anywhere, but there's a straight hallway that led to one bedroom that was over the garage. Almost every guest that stayed in that bedroom said that something tried to climb in the bed with them at some point in the night.
That's so creepy. That makes me think of, this is not as creepy as that, but almost. Well, not really, but it just gives further heed to that type of. My older sister at the time had a close friend, and I had gotten to know that close friend very well. Hung over at her house and everything, and one particular evening, I was in my room, and me and my little sister shared a room, but we were trying to go to bed, and I could not sleep. And every time I would shut my eyes, I would see this woman just suspended in just midair in nothingness. And it looked like she was like dangling, like flowing, she was wearing this white nightgown type dress. And it was just flowing like a light air current on it. And had curly ringlets of like brown hair and pale skin. And I still can't remember if I saw her eyes blue or like emerald. It was either very blue or very emerald. Anyway, and she's just like with mouth open, like a gape and everything, just looking emptily. And the next day I had talked to her. Her best friend, like her real best friend, had committed suicide. And I described her to a T, other than the eyes, because I can't remember. I picked one, and I told her I don't know which color I saw, but it was one of the two, and whatnot. And she was like, "That's crazy. I don't believe that," because her best friend had hung herself. I was just like, okay,
Jeeves,
that's weird. Because I did not know this person at all.
Right.
But I could not sleep, and that's all I saw. That every time I closed my eyes that night until I got so exhausted that I eventually fell asleep. crazy. And also on that 4th Street, I was at my dad's old house that I just finally got him out of, actually, when that occurred. But on 4th Street, another instance that happened is when we were in a particular room, we had a closet. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a big closet, but it was just, this was on Hillcrest as well. Just kidding. But there was a closet, and when it would get real late at night after the house was quiet other than like white noise, you could hear this almost like scratchy noise occasionally, but right before you would hear some indiscriminate whispers. That's it.
Fuck that.
Yeah. Now, I also, after my mom died and I was having night terrors, that was the same house that I had seen my mother in her hospital bed. But that, I mean, my mom had just died too, so of course, and I was having night terrors, so of course I saw her, I think. Right. That was just me putting those together, but just weird.
There was, at this same house where the staircase and whatnot, they, I had seen stuff in that back bedroom, like back in the crawl space, and
Mm-hmm.
I had like something like sit on like the end of the bed. I never had anything like crawl into the bed with me. Right. But some people, like we had relatives that came down once, and they were just adamant, just like, I'm not sleeping in that room. Like I'm not. Like something's like slid itself like into the bed with me.
Right.
But there was one night in particular, and I'm probably like 17 or something. Like I'm old enough at this point, not like a small child. Mm-hmm. And I'm laying in bed, and it's like really, really late, and like I was asleep, and then I got woken up somehow.
Right, something just woke you up.
Yeah, and I'm laying there, and I close my eyes to go back to sleep, and I punch myself in the face, like hard, like right in my knockout like spot right here on the jaw, and like I sit up, and I like look around. I'm like, what the fuck, man? And I laid back down. And then I punched myself twice harder, like in succession, like right back in the face. And
That's creepy.
I sat up, and like I shouted like stop, like
yeah.
And I would have stuff like shake the bed as well, but not like anything like that, but like really, really like unnerving to be woken up, not know why. There was another house I lived in. I talked about this on my buddy Ted's podcast. But I was like 21 or 22, and my roommates they're not like they're more skeptics in the traditional sense than I am. Mm-hmm. But there would be like weird stuff happen where they'd be like, hey, did you like go in my room or something like that? I'm like, no, what the fuck? And the cat would follow stuff around. The house was kind of shaped like you would walk in and be, if you're looking from your point of view, like top down, right? Mm-hmm. The blueprint, you walk in through the front door here, and it's one big open room. Mm-hmm. Then it V's off right here, kitchen, and then the bedrooms, and there's another bedroom here, so it creates a circle on the interior design of the house. So one night, a friend of mine got really unnerved and was just like, can we please go outside? I'm like, what the fuck? And they're just like something was behind me. Like I could feel it standing behind me. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't seen anything in the house, and from growing up and being in haunted places.
Stuff hits you different when you're exposed to it at a young age.
Yeah. But there was one night I was sleeping on the couch, and I felt something sit down like right next to me, like where my head was at on the couch, and then the cat was at the other end of me, and I felt something smack down on the mattress to like shoo the cat away. So whenever that happened, I was like, huh, maybe there is weird stuff in this house. Like a week later, I'm at home alone. My roommates are working, and I'm just sitting home drinking, smoking, watching movies like a productive 20-year-old. And
don't we all?
yeah, and I'm watching The Birdcage. I remember with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane, and great movie. I've seen it a lot, so I don't laugh audibly out loud.
Right, it's more an internal. Or the punchline, like a punchline is coming, so you're preparing yourself.
Yeah. But something silly on screen happens, and I hear from back behind me at the other end of the oval of the house, a man go, "Ha ha!" Like from like the other room, but still watching like what was going on the movie.
Oh, that's spooky. Yeah, I've been very fortunate not to be what's the word I'm looking for? Not to be targeted by anything otherworldly or spiritual in that manner,
right.
other than like occurrences or like meeting experiences, so to speak. Like thankfully nothing negative has happened. Like there are like exorcisms or people being possessed or like shit falling off and breaking repeatedly and stuff. Like I've been very fortunate for none of those occurrences to happen yet. I don't know what I would do if one of them did. I play scenarios through, but I get weirded out just by the few occurrences and like weird stuff that happens in general. And the building that I work at is a very old building on the square in Moultrie, the old Friedlanders building, and it's like 3 or 4 actual floors. It's huge, but it's old and it's supposed to be haunted. I don't know any of the stories or anything because everything I take it all as super fictitious when I hear stories from like the local stories and stuff, because I want the actual history. Like tell me what actually happened here. Tell me who was abused here and who was not treated properly, or any fires and stuff, like the real stuff, the history, not the fabrications. But there is definitely weird stuff that happens around there, and weird occurrences. Like you're gonna feel like you're being followed, especially if you're there by yourself. So I make it a point to like acknowledge anything that might be there and like ask them how their day is going. And that might just be superstitious of me, but that's also not something that I want on the bad side. I don't want that on I don't want to be on the wrong side of anything that can pass through me or maybe possess me. Ain't about it. No, thank you. I have enough crap to deal with. I don't want that too.
I've never dealt with like anything like violent or any of those like anecdotes that you'll hear where it's like, oh, like dishes were flying off. I've even seen some YouTube videos where like it really unnerves me because I'm like, yo, bro, I would find any way I could and move out of that fucking house, like,
right? And then but then you hear you can't move because then it's worse. And I'm just like, so what do I do? You just don't go there to begin with. That's the answer. You just never leave your room. You've got to build your own room, not on an Indian burial ground. Don't go where any dead bodies are. Just go, and then you've just got to stay there. That's it. That's like that is the singular lesson that I've learned from every single horror movie, every single paranormal, every single type of thriller movie that I have learned from. Don't go into big, nice country houses. Don't go into old houses. Don't go into secluded houses. Just don't go anywhere. And don't do anything. Don't speak to people. And there's this new movie out about a box or something that I watched a trailer for, and I want to watch it, but I'm so scared. And they do so well at these. I get scared so easily, but I love it because I'm an adrenaline junkie. Oh, I love it. But this movie coming out is about this guy's friend that comes out of the blue, out of nowhere, and it's not the best acting skills. Like it's pretty bad. It's pretty like it's pretty bad. But the guy playing inside of the box is great because he freaked me out. But this old friend comes and drops off this present as being weird in the most literal sense there is. His kooky friend, like, oh, creepy, I'm not letting you in my house type friend, and gives him this box, and he's like, here's the card. Don't open the card yet. You gotta open the box. You can't read the letter yet. You'll understand once you open the box. That's weird. I don't want it. Take it back. Leave. Instantly. That's where I'm at. I'm like, I don't know. I don't care if you're my sister. My sister better not bring anything like that. I'll be like, okay, you can throw it in the garbage disposal at your own house. Bye. See you next Halloween. I don't know. But they open it, and then there's just this box with absolutely nothing in it, and they have to keep their eyes on it, and every time they don't look at it, something happens. You don't know what, but something happens. And in the trailer, hands come out, or a head comes out, and then hands come out, and that's it. But that happens every time they look away. First the head, and he doesn't say anything. He just looking side to side, just looking around. Big weird eyeballs, big, just beady type eyeballs, and then they look away again. At first they throw a pencil in there, and it doesn't come back.
Ooh. They
can't see in it with a flashlight. You're like, yeah, it's gone. And then they look away the first time or whatever, the head comes out, and then look away the second time, and then the fingers. And it creeps me out. The trailer.
What if the note ironically says, just kidding, please don't open the box?
And no, they were like, I'm sorry to do the note was like, I apologize for this, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know who else to give it to. Da-da-da. Apparently they did the friend wrong or something. I don't know. It was a very awkward situation, so you knew that there was some trouble between that, but just the two lead characters that they had. Shit. I'm not an actor by any means, but I'll do a better job. But anyway, and that coincides with paranormal movies to me. They scare me the most, but paranormal movies scare me on a whole nother level because of the possibility of it being able to happen. There's so much just that negative energy can do alone from a singular human being. And that one being can cause so much destruction just from negative energy, not even doing anything, just negative energy, because of the waves that creates and how it passes, because misery loves company.
Sure.
And then you want to bring in that elevated level? No, just kill me now. Like, save me the trouble. I'm here as a sacrifice. I don't care anymore.
I think it's not too far-fetched with all this paranormal stuff. There is, did you ever see some experiment they did where they were shooting like a laser or atoms at like something that would split like the laser, and they had a partition and then like a target, like a shooting range or something at the other end. So whenever they were observing it, it would do one thing, and whenever they weren't observing it, it would do something else entirely. Like energy, atoms, molecules reacted differently when it knew it was not being watched. So like they started tying in these notions of kind of like a video game, right? Like your processing power is based on the point of view of your character. If you're in like an open world, it's not processing like what you're not looking at. It's behaving differently. So it's a mimicry of what actually happens in reality, that nature by itself reacts differently when it knows you're not watching it.
And there are plants that provide evidence for that. There are plants that if you there's a plant where it's over dramatic, like that it will be over dramatic or whatever. If it's the faintest bit like thirsty or whatever, it'll start to die so that you will water it, and then it comes back to life because you're giving it attention. It knows that there's something there to give it attention. Therefore, it's acting dramatically. And there are flowers where if you go up to touch the petals or whatever, they retract. And it may be a defense mechanism, but that's still it reacting to your energy and your presence there,
Right.
which it would not react to otherwise,
Right.
or would react to differently if your presence wasn't involved. And that's ridiculous all on its own, because that means that there's sentient beings more than there's more than just people that are sentient beings. Which right now that's pretty much where we're at, is only people are sentient.
Right. Well, like these would be things that are not forms, right? Like this meat vehicle that you occupy and I occupy, like it's limited to the third dimension and time in the fourth dimension, right? It's going to decay eventually.
Yeah, it has already started.
Oh, totally. You hit middle age and then.
But from the time you hit prime adulthood, which is that little varying group, because I mean, once your body hits its peak, it's decaying.
Yeah, entropy. It's going to set in. But these things that are not forms that have sentience with them, they would be outside of biology, right? So they're greater than the third dimension. We're trapped in the third dimension. The only way we can experience fifth and sixth dimensions is if you take psychedelics or have a near-death experience.
Right. We're just now getting into being open to that option. We're just like, oh, maybe it is a good job too.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot more truth to things like paranormal and the unknown than most people give it credit for.
Right, and I think ultimately in the future we may change the name from paranormal to something a little bit. Maybe we'll keep paranormal, but to something a little bit more pleasing sounding. Because also I like to watch Doctor Who. There's this one episode of Doctor Who. I am such a nerd. There's this one episode of Doctor Who where there's these two, it's the Cybermen that are coming through, but these two universes, these two parallel universes start to merge because of the antagonist, the Cybermen, wanting to invade Earth. Well, England. According to that is Earth, but Earth, and it happens in phases at different times, but it's essentially it's locked off. It's completely locked until those start to merge. But ultimately, the shifting of those merging causes a whole clusterfuck reaction because we're not capable of it was their future, so parallel universes, so you're not supposed to be able to be with two versions of yourself in one.
Yeah, otherwise they're not parallel.
Exactly, so they cross and then everything's screwed. But that's what that makes me think of when they're fading in and then fading out at different intervals of time. There's different areas where wavelengths are greater or less frequent, so that barriers are easier to pass through, maybe is a good way to put that. Whereas at other times they'd be a lot thicker. Or if you're trying to get through a thicket of woods, there's going to be different parts that are more clear and accessible to make paths through it, and then there are going to be other parts where are completely inaccessible, depending on daylight, because you can get lost at night.
True.
Anyway, got lost on another tangent. You know how I do. How it happens.
Well, shit, Dusty, we got about 3.5 hours here.
We've been chatting.
Yes, ma'am. Is there anything we can promote or plug for you? You want to shout out to anything you want?
I'll always shout out my little sister Amy, because she teaches at a lower income school and stuff, and she deals with some badass little kids, but she is just a badass person. I'm always willing to shout out my family. My older sister teaches too, but Amy's the one that's literally can't stop, won't stop, and is continuously I mean, well, our family gets shit on, but I just like she is a bigger inspiration. My sister won't listen to this, so she won't know the difference. But you know,
she might.
my older sister won't. I can guarantee it. But so it's okay. But my little sister and I have a closer relationship than my older sister and I do. But I'm always here to give Amy a shout out. But other than that, just local businesses and fact checking. PSA, please fact check. And I can tell you right now, if it's a .com, you're lying to yourself. That's it. If we can't find that source coming originally from a book or some sort of equal degree of literature, nonfiction book I should say, it's probably not true. So just don't waste your time. I will laugh at it. Just reading stuff like that, I laugh. Or I've seen
books are used for kindling, not learning.
If it's coming from Facebook, it's probably not factual.
Just saying.
It might be if the Teletubbies was like a real location, like if we could go and visit Teletubby Land and have the real green grass, and that baby son didn't age.
I don't know. They seem to be kind of like asexual, always happy beings, and I'm not too good on either of those.
Here's a theory to get your mind tingling. What if the Teletubbies are real creatures?
Is there only 4 of them or 5 of them? Like, is there a Teletubby city?
So it's not, the Teletubbies are still in a suit, and those are the 4 that are like coming on. It's very similar to I watched the Netflix series Happy with Christopher Maloney, which I love. If you haven't seen it, you should.
I like Christopher Maloney.
He's so great, and Patton Oswalt's in it. I thoroughly enjoy those seasons. It's only like two or 3 seasons, but anyway, there's these alien beings that that telepathically communicate, and they wear these costumes, and they go on show for kids on, like, they go on television and create this kids show. And it just made me think of Teletubbies so hard, and I'm just like, that's it. Because the Teletubbies is so weird. Like, a human thought of that, they should have been killed at birth. You're telling me some human thought that let's stick a giant sun and put this baby's face on it to laugh every morning. What drugs were you drinking? I mean, I've done a lot in my time, but nothing has made, and I've thought of some weird thoughts. Like, there's been some cookies baking up in there, okay? But never in my life have I thought of some weird shapy creatures with big old heads and tiny ears and TVs on their tummies paying an homage to a sun with a baby face. Never in my day. That's an alien. That's my point. I'm sticking to it. But that's all I have to promote. Watch more television.
Well, thank you for coming on the show.
I had a blast. It was great being able to rant.
I did too. We'll definitely do a sequel.
All right, I'm down.
All right. Later, y'all.